hand to the sky, car to the streets, key to the ignition, baby. What they got in common is they all belong together. And it's made me realize that loving you is not the perfect love song. You always wanna hear. And when my day's going on wrong, singing you is like a song in my ear. All I need is you, baby. Body to body with only you, baby. And I don't need another. 'Cause baby, what we got a perfect love song.
Baby, everything about this love we share is perfect. Nothing on the road we can come near it, no worth it. Every room you sleep in, and you light it up like lights in a Times Square, New Year's Eve, electricity, Tokyo. Woman, your love a fall upon me like the falls of Niagara. Lift me higher than the peaks on the mountains of Kenya. With you I reach a level that is ever blessed.
And it's made me realize, loving you is like the perfect love song. That you always wanna hear. And when my day's going on wrong, singing you is like a song in my ear. So all I need is you, baby. Body to body with only you, baby. And I don't need another. 'Cause baby, what we got is a perfect love song.
Well, just getting the news of the passing of Morgan Heritage. And I'm sure later on we'll get some much more information. So we go back now to our interview, and I just want to thank our many listeners for staying tuned with us while we are preparing ourselves for our interview tonight on the last Sunday of Black History Month. Yes.
Yes, well, due to the distraction, I don't know how much we took in the preface, what I wanted to start with.
Yeah.
But it was very important just to show the relationship with spirituality and religion, and Africans being in bondage because how they approach spirituality for religion, and how they always look into outside forces for solutions to African problems, and everything is within her. And for us to understand that spirituality really is a network that links all of us together, and we need not to see ourselves as religious people more than spiritual people, because we are more than just religion, because we are a nation, we are together. So in the essence of Black History Month, Cecil, there's something that always comes to my mind. If you remember Superior Picky, our Calypsonian, or veteran Calypsonian, he had a song singing Why Black. I don't know if you can remember that.
I remember that song, Why Black.
And he would always want to sing it at almost every African Liberation Celebration observance in May 25th. And it has some meaning, and we need to digest that well. He's saying that everything that relates to black is bad. So there is, for example, black male, black sheep of the family, your blacklist. In school, we used to hear of the black book, which is almost frightening whenever the person comes in with the black book to say who is in the black book, because you know that is a serious caning for you. We hear of we have seen pictures of a black devil and a white angel over that black devil. So everything seeming to be black, seeming to be bad. And it's from that psychology that I'm trying to ask myself the question now, why black history? And does it bring any psychological, has it a psychological effect on our people's minds when it is called black history? We have to remember still that there are black Indians and there are black Arabs as well. I've seen pictures of black Arabs. So how do we define ourselves? Is it as black people or is it as a nation? And I think if we can go back to the nation, identify ourselves as a nation, then this could go a long way in bringing us forward and improving our whole status in life. So we have to be careful how we use that black. And I think right now when I look at it, to me it's more important to refer to it as African history or African nation, African history. And if we want to go deeper than Africa, because we still know that Africa is still not the original, we want to look at Ethiopian history. And that would bring us even way back into anciency. So that is important, how we identify that phase of our struggle. At the same time, we still want to heal the Afro-Americans, those in America, who have been engaged in that Black History Month for some years now. And I think it is important that we can cooperate and coordinate with them, because I think America has played a very critical role in the movement of black people and the struggle of the African people. America has played and America has gone through maybe some of the worst forms of racism, over these past, even within the past century, when countries like Dominica and the West Indies were so-called free. But America, being the nation of white people, we don't like to say white people, we call them Caucasian people, then that was the predominant race, and the effects of racism, so being institutionalized in America, had a great effect on the people. So we hail America for taking up that stance of the history of African history. We still know history is a subject taught at school, so therefore it must be of some importance. But growing up in school, we hear of history and we hear of certain characters. We hear of people like Napoleon, we know is a Frenchman. We hear of people like even other nations like Genghis Khan. We hear of Christopher Columbus. We hear of Indians. But we hear nothing of African and African people. And that is worrisome. So we hear of all these characters and all these kind of people, these people, as seemingly our heroes and seemingly people that we should look up to. Okay? Now, we grew up in that history. At a certain point in time now, West Indian history was introduced. Remember, we have heard of all the characters that we hear about are characters from Europe and some from India, because we hear of people like Genghis Khan, we hear of people like Buddha, and all these people. West Indian history was introduced, and we come to realize that West Indian history was really the history of Europeans in the West Indies. And then we began to hear of other people. Well, the Christopher Columbuses, like I mentioned already, the Francis Drakes, the Hawkins, Lord Nelson, Queen Elizabeth, and people of European origin generally, who seem to be looked upon and wanted to be thrust upon black or people as the heroes of the time, when these were really the colonizers and the slave masters. So we were looking up to these kind of people, and these are the people who were being taught about. Now, in discerning all that, now you come into the realization, but hey, black people, African people, is it only slavery that we know? Is it slavery? Slavery alone is our history? That is all we know about slavery? And we started to look deeper into things. At that time, we still had political struggles going on in South Africa. The apartheid system was still on in Zimbabwe. There were still places like Angola and Mozambique which were not yet freed politically. And so that brings a closer relationship, brings a closer connection to what really is going on with our people. And we recognize it's our people. And it couldn't only be slavery that is our history. And it seems that we only recognize slavery as our history. And from there after. But is the point is that they try to erase everything that was relating to African people and African history. They try to demolish everything. They try to desecrate everything that relating to black people, to African people's movements. No. African people, if we look at it well, and if we want to reclaim what is ours and what is really our past, let's go deep into the history. All people are people of the Nile Valley. All people are people of ancient sea. All people are people relating to Ethiopia, Egypt, and all these places that were talked about even in the book that we revere so much, the Bible. We were never taught that Egypt is part of Africa. It never seemed to be part of Africa. But then, these places were not, we were not able to identify ourselves as people of Ethiopian descent and anciency. Because if we had to go down that route, we realize that, all people are the people who are really the inventors. All people are the people who are of ancient origin. For example, we were taught that Hippocrates, who is a Greek of Greek origin, is father of medicine, and we were told so. Not realizing that 2,000 years before Hippocrates, there's an Egyptian of black origin called Imhotep, who is recognized as the father of medicine. But everything that seeming to be black and seeming to be African was always cast aside, so that we could not be able to identify with something which was great. We only could identify with slavery and thereafter. And that was the crucial thing, mental thing that happened to our people, where everything of Africa was destroyed within us. So we did not want to relate to Africa. We were told that we were Christianized, Africans were savages and cannibals. All falsehoods. Because while Africa had great civilizations, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, in Timbuktu, in South Africa, in all over Africa, great civilizations, it was the Caucasians who were living as savages and cannibals. And that is where war has been existing on this earth for all the time. So, let us be clear as to our identification of ourselves as who we are. We are not hewers of wood and carriers of water. We are people, even within the book that most Christians revere, called the Bible, that the origins of all these people are black people, but which we were not told so. So from even the first land talked about in that same book that we revere so much is the land of Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is burnt-skinned people. So we know that we have ancient origin and ancient sea. So that is why all that was taken away from us. We were not told that these people were black people. We were not told that Egyptians are black people. We're not told that the land of what is called Israel today is the land of black people. That is our heritage, which was afflicted. So we now have to try to reclaim that heritage now. That could give us a more secure base. Give us a more recognition of a people who were great and not a people who were just slaves. And that is where we need to go as African people because up to today, I mean, we still hear the cry, for example, of mental slavery and emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, even though we say that we were emancipated. But all this is just fake still.
But I trying to understand. I must tell you, I'm trying to understand. We are saying as black people that we were civilized long before the Caucasian people came to Africa. But in our civilization, we were allowed to be manipulated by the Caucasian when they came in to do business. Was it because of our selfishness as black people?
No, I think it's maybe because of more of our humbleness.
Humbleness?
Mm-hmm.
How would be?
Because we allow ourselves to be led. We allow ourselves to be subservient, to be subjected.
I'm not getting that, Imani. That a Caucasian group came from Europe, move across to your shores. You were able to sell your black brothers and sisters to these Caucasian people. They came back, they went through the Atlantic Ocean. They came back, they went back to Europe and then came back to your shores to make purchase. And you are saying to me that it was based on the fact that we were humble and we were in that trade, that constant trade, and knowing exactly what the Caucasian people were doing, and you consider that to be humble?
No, we allowed ourselves to be led by these people. We allowed ourselves to be somehow fooled by these people. And today, Cecil, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to be looking upon the event, that event of slavery, and try to just only blame ourselves. While we can blame ourselves because we had no right to allow that to happen to us, but at the same time we have to understand, and I wasn't there at the time, so I can only rely on what was said and what was told, that these people came, they didn't come kindly. They came with viciousness and savagery and brutality.
But we do not want to make the discussion a slavery discussion. But you are saying that these people, these Europeans, came into Africa in a brutal way. But we were civilized. And you're saying to me that by virtue of their brutality, they came with guns, they came with their weapons, and they were able to steal, when we know, and history has shown us, that these people that came from Europe actually purchased people from Africa to bring them to the New World?
Yes, but Cecil, I just want us to realize that whatever mistake that we made,
mm-hmm.
we still have to look upon what they did to us.
But I believe, while you're saying that, while that is true, but I also believe that we must recognize that we made the first error, so that we can, for us to forgive the white man, the Caucasian man, we must first come to the acceptation. We must accept the fact that we were the ones who made the first error.
Yes, and when we recognize that, where do we go from there?
Then when we recognize that, we must be able to tell, in the face of everything else, we must be able to tell a Caucasian, we have made that error, but you have savagely, not denounced us, but savagely destroy us as a people. And that's where you're hearing about the mental slavery.
Right. But we
don't want to accept the fact that our kings and queens sold our own.
Yes, but we're not going to go down that route. In now that we're looking at let's say, example, the issue of reparation, we're not going down the route of appearing to be the guilty one.
But Africa can say to the Africans, reparation, you too have to give us reparation. To our families and loved ones that you took away from us to sell to the Europeans.
Yeah, but like I tell you, see, at that time, I'm not, to be clear on that part of history, we have to maybe go down into it, go deeper into it. Because as to what was going on at the time between the Africans in terms of struggles, in terms of fighting, in terms of quarrels and conflicts that ended up having kept people in punishment as slaves, for example, or the capturing of African people by whoever and then being sold, that could have gone on. Yes. But at the same time, I want to look at the other picture. Because while that went on, and while we could recover from that, even on our own, we never know that we ourselves could solve these issues ourselves. But then what eventually happened after that? And as we say, we don't want to talk about slavery alone because it's not just that we're talking about.
That's correct.
Because it's seeming that our history is only from slavery. But our history is more than that. You see? And we want to pin the blame squarely
on slavery.
On the people who brought us into slavery, who tortured us, who brutalized us, who murdered us, who treated us inhumanely and claiming that they were Christianizing us.
So who had to tell the story of the great civilized Africa? Who had to tell the story? Was it the Caucasian or was it our kings and queens?
Our kings and queens.
Did they ever did that?
But of course, because it is recorded. This is recorded history as to all the achievements of our people. Mm-hmm. From building of the great pyramids to being people who actually invented, for example, the calendar. People who wrote literature. People who had the first sculptured image. People who were doing wonders in the world. So we have to now tell ourselves that is who we are. And whatever went on in conflicts and confusion and fighting that allowed us to be even led into slavery, yes, we have to look at that because it is still legacies that remain on our people.
So why was the infighting among tribes then in Africa before slavery came in?
Well, I can't explain that, Cecil. I can't explain why there was fighting. But there was fighting, there were some scuffles, whatever. But that is still not our foundation. Our foundation goes even beyond that. Our foundation didn't start from we fighting among ourselves.
But could you say, or can we say, that the fighting caused us to be weaker because we fought against tribes that we believe that were inferior or whatever the circumstance might be, causing the Caucasian to see our weakness and
take advantage of it? Yes. But what we're saying is that what resulted in that is that what we're talking about now. Because yes, it happened that way, but then what are the after effects of this, of whatever happened, of that slavery? What are the after effects? What did they do to us now as a people to erase everything that we knew of our land, to discredit everything that we did as a people, to make us look as the devils, to make us look as though we are just the hewers of wood and carriers of water, to make us look as though we were nothing. That is the propaganda that came through, and that is the indoctrination that came through on our people. That we had no knowledge of our past, no recollection of our past, that could give us a strength and a courage and a higher self-esteem as a people. Because the fact that we have the fact that we don't recognize, for example, Egypt is a land of black people. But we read of Egypt, for example, in the book that we read, the Bible, not seeming to be black people at all, not seeming to be African people. So when we have that psychology, that we don't even know our roots, and remember, important to know that, because in that whole history business, remember Marcus Garvey said people without the knowledge of the history is a tree without roots. So when we don't know those roots, and these roots were removed and taken away from us and beaten out of us, and the whole deculturization process that went on to make us forget everything about Africa, then that is the state we are in today. So we're not going to pin the blame on because we are like a scuffle among ourselves. Yes, we can internally and privately, yes, we have to accept what we did that wasn't right, but at the same time, we cannot condone what happened in the aftermath and what these people did to us. We can't condone that. So that is why today we have to be forthright about it.
I'm saying that if as a black people we do not recognize Egypt as part of Africa, something has to be wrong with us. Because every one of us would be aware that Egypt is northeast of Africa, in Africa.
Growing up, Cecil, I personally never knew that. I never could identify Egypt as Africa.
No, the sad thing about growing up, that we were only told about Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Rhodesia, well, Zimbabwe, Rhodesia is the same, Ethiopia, just about 5 countries that we were told that was basically Kenya, we were told that was Africa, or we were informed as Africa, because they were to many of the Europeans, these countries would have maybe been the countries that had much more economic power. But we should have known that Egypt, South Africa, these countries are Africa.
No, it wasn't seeming so. It wasn't seeming so at all. It really wasn't seeming so that Egypt was looked upon as a part of Africa. And that is why we could never identify Egypt and Egyptians and all the great wonders that Egyptians did. We couldn't identify that as our own works, because Egypt seemed to be somewhere out of Africa, somewhere else. So all these places, that is why I say let's try to check our nation. Not just black, but our nation, Africa, Ethiopia. And for us to reclaim what is ours, for us to get together that higher self-esteem as a people. Because if we haven't got that foundation and that anciency to look back upon, we're only going to look upon slavery as our history. And that is what we're trying to say. No, we are more than that. We are inventors of the world. We are origins of the world. Why did they try to paint everything white, or paint everything in a different, take out all the blackness and paint everything differently? Why do they do that? Why do they make us think that the black is the devil? So those things didn't come from we ourselves, All that indoctrination didn't come from we ourselves, it came from them. So why did they make us think that we are not Ethiopians? That these places have no part in our history? Why have we been placed in that situation? We have to question those things, and that is why we have to question and become closer to Africa and African struggles. And that is why as Rasta, we became very close to Africa when we realized, well, hey, we came down here in slavery and we were brutalized. It's our mothers and fathers, it's our ancestors. And some people would be of the opinion that it is not us. But if we don't have the feeling and the sympathy for what our ancestors went through, then who are we?
Do you to a certain extent blame the conquering of North Africa, to include that of Egypt, by the Arabs for the fault of less recognition of these North African countries, to include Egypt,
Algeria, Libya, and all these? Yes, because these were the first. Because remember, I read that thing earlier on. Maybe we didn't take it in too well, but it was saying that Africans are in bondage today because they put spirituality through religion provided by foreign invaders and conquerors. So these people were foreign invaders and conquerors who brought their set of rules and regulations onto us and conquered our lands. But these lands were always, even like I tell you, the land of Israel today was the land of black people as well. All that in area. So, right now it seems that we just don't have no self-esteem now. We have nothing to look upon. So we are now saying that let us be a nation. Because if we are without a nation, like it might say, we are without a soul. So let us look upon ourselves as a nation of people. Let us reflect on what happened to us. Let us see how we can take away these legacies of that slavery.
I think what we need to first try to do, Imani, we know that Egypt is in Africa, but we know that many people use the term Africa to only refer to the sub-Sahara Africa. We know that, and I think that is the first lesson that we have to now get into people's mind. What is sub-Sahara? So that we can have a better understanding as to what makes up Africa.
But mixed up Africa?
I said that many people, all right, they are aware, some people are aware that Egypt is in Africa. But many people use the term Africa to only refer to the sub-Sahara Africa. These countries in the sub-Sahara, they consider them to be Africa and not necessarily those of North Africa, as I was saying earlier on. I hope you get me.
Well, that is true to some extent, because of the invading and conquering of our lands.
Mm-hmm.
And why were our lands invaded and conquered? It's because of the richness of the continent. Rosie Douglas once said that Africa is the richest continent on the earth, yet we are the poorest people. Europe is maybe the poorest continent on the earth, but they are the richest people. So why? So that is all what instigated all that thing, the greed and the wants for the gifts of Africa. That's what dazzled all these people too. So that was the only means to become more influential and become richer. You see? And that is where we have to be careful about all these things.
And that's why I was saying earlier on to you that countries like Liberia, Ethiopia, Ghana, Malawi, even Senegal, Gambia, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, these are the countries that many people would consider when you hear people talk about Africa. They don't look at the Arabic states and North Africa to consider them to be African states or Africans. Mm. And that is where I think we as the conscious ones to bring that education to the people. So they figure out the Arabs are not part of Africa, because earlier on you made mention of the fact that let's look at the land. The land Africa should be able to identify with black people. Mm-hmm. Basically, I was getting that from you.
Yes, definitely. It must, because that was the origin. That is the original land, that is the original people of the land. All other peoples came in after, who looking for solace, who looking for comfort, who looking for richness, who looking to be greedy, That is the whole reason for coming into Africa and take over Africa. So, all time we cannot reclaim the resources of our land, Africa. We're going to remain poor. So right now is a time where, for us as a people in the Caribbean, in Africa, to wake up to some extent. Because we can't only be impacted by what is happening in the world. We can't only remain poor, undeveloped, underdeveloped, third world country. We can rise. And we have to rise because we have the intellect and the mind and wise people to rise Africa beyond that. So that is the challenge now for us as a people. How do we surmount those inequalities of the past and put it behind us and move on? You see, how do we get... Because, for example, who are our heroes? Who are our heroes? In Dominica, for example, who are our heroes? There are nobody that we have claimed to be a national hero.
In what reference?
As being a hero in the struggles for black people and the redemption cause of black people. There's nobody who, for example, in Jamaica, we have Marcus Garvey as a national hero. We have even Bob Marley as a national hero. But we have nothing here to look back on.
I wouldn't totally agree with you, because when you hear of Rosie Douglas has found himself sacrificing his life for Africa. We know that even during the fight of Angola, that Rosie himself worked with the people of Cuba to fight for the Angolans. Rosie Douglas himself was one of the persons who championed the cause of Black African Day, African Liberation Day. Rosie Douglas was spearheading all of these things even while he was in school in Canada. So we have to be careful in how we coin the fact of saying that we have no person who is a hero fighting for the black cause.
We have nobody recognized as a national hero in Dominica. No one. Because it has not been stated, it has not been said, it has not been proclaimed.
I'm hearing quite a lot of people making that pronouncement.
The nation needs to make that proclamation, not just the people, the nation as a nation, we need to make the proclamation. And not only Rosie Douglas. Rosie Douglas is a very key one, very, very key one, because he's what he did for us as a people was very crucial, very instrumental in how we are to who we are today. But he's not recognized as such. It's like, okay, sometimes we give people honors at independence. Cicero Award of Honor, this honor, that honor. But we have not said this is a national hero. We're looking at people like Edward Oliver LeBlanc. Most people who were born in the 70s would know nothing of Edward Oliver LeBlanc. People who are 50 years today would know nothing of Edward Oliver LeBlanc, because we haven't claimed him as such.
But we can still say the same too about Marcus Garvey.
No, Marcus Garvey was claimed as a national hero in Jamaica.
But I'm saying to you that you are indicating that there are people who are 50 years now do not know about Rosie Douglas, about Edward LeBlanc. I'm saying to you there are people who are 50 years who cannot tell you exactly. They would have heard the name Marcus Garvey, but as to what Marcus Garvey stood for, they are not able to tell you.
That is quite true, because we were never taught the history of our people in the schools. How long we have been advocating for the history of our people to be taught in the schools, and it's not being done. And we not only talk about to teach the history as a subject, but to teach it as something that can inspire us to greater heights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not only as something to get a GC or CXC, because that is what is happening with our history. It's just a pasa. So we'll read of Marcus Garvey in history, but just read of Marcus Garvey in history as something which happened in the past, but not using it to inspire us and to further us on. So that's what I'm saying, when I talk about heroes and how we haven't acclaimed our people, put our people on that pedestal put our people in that rank. Make our people be known. So, Rosie Douglas did a lot for Dominica and a lot for African people. A lot. And rightfully, he should be looked upon as that. Same as Edward Oliver Libla. Same as people like even Dr. Alvin Bully. These are people who have great status in our land. And we need to recognize these people, because otherwise than that, who are we going to be inspired by? And it's seeming to me through all that we were ready for freedom, because I remember on a program not too long somebody was saying that we were not prepared, we were not ready for independence. But we are ready for freedom. Independence is a different thing, it's a different word, because nothing is independent of its own. There's nothing independent in the world.
I agree. Totally agree with that.
But we are ready for our freedom, because anybody will be ready for freedom. If you're in jail today, you must be ready for your freedom at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But we were not prepared for it. We were not prepared to deal with it. And that happened all through Africa, in the liberation movements and all. Why would many of the people who were seen as father figures, and I can even come back to Edward Oliver Libla as well in that line, father figures only to be at the end just fall in disgrace? Why were the people who had fought so much for the liberation fight, struggles and for liberation, only to fall in disgrace after? We were ready for freedom, but we were not prepared to deal with it. Because all along, all that was happening is that we were fighting for liberation. And in the fight for liberation, that was the only way our minds were concentrated upon. But we were not ready to deal with the governance issue of the land. And Dominica is also a practical example of that. And I like to refer to Dominica because Dominica is part of the whole scenario. Dominica is a practical example of that. In Dominica, Labour Party, under Edward Oliver Libla, they were the party of the masses. They were the party of the workers. They were the party which was fighting against the colonialism and the inequalities and the oppression of the system. So they were recognized as that. Whatever mistake that was made, and see what I say, we were ready but not prepared. You know, we got independence in 1978, right?
That's correct.
It didn't take, how long did it take before Patrick John fell from power?
5 months.
Exactly. How could that be real? That the person who is bringing us into independence could fall so quickly in disgrace after that. So we made errors along the way. And like I say, we were not prepared for it. And that happened to all the guerrilla fighters in Africa. They were fighting, their whole meditation was on fighting and fighting and fighting. When the liberation came, they were not prepared for it. So many of them fell in disgrace as well. And we have to look upon those examples. When all the Labour Party fell in disgrace.
Do you think that the reason for that is because the Black Liberation Movement, there were branches of counter-cultural within the civil rights, and so they were more looking at conquering, being revolutionary more or less, than really looking at policies and looking at...
Exactly. Because they didn't have time for that. Their time was concentrated only on the struggle for the freedom and liberation.
So you can say that that's almost what happened in the ANC?
All. That is exactly what happened to African movements. Because the fact that we were always dependent and we were always fighting for that struggle, and we didn't have because of the colonial effects upon us, then we were not educated sufficiently in the line of governance issues. We were not sufficiently informed about it. So that is why we hardly knew how to turn and where to turn. That I say Dominica is an example of that. What happened in Dominica after? The people and them who were the land-owning class, who were looked upon as the representatives then, for example, of the... And I'm saying those things not in no partiality or enmity of anybody, but just to relate the truth. These people who were the land-owning class, we did a whole 360 turn and they came back into power in Dominica. So our struggle actually did a whole 360 turn backwards to allow them to become again our rulers, because they were representatives of that class. Whereas the Labour Party was really representative of the masses of people, of the workers, of the working class of people. Now, through all that, now Rosie Douglas, that's why he have to be looked upon as the hero as well, because he actually brought back, he took the whole 360 forward turn now and brought back that party who was seen as the working class party into power again. And why he should be so recognized that we talking about Nelson Mandela, but we doesn't want to deal with our own. Rosie Douglas was in jail in Canada for uprising. He became the Prime Minister of the land. Nelson Mandela was in jail, he became president. But we don't seem to be checking those things deeply and thoroughly enough that for us to recognize what that means to us, how that can elevate our whole status, our whole thinking, our whole being. And so he returning just brought the thing to what it was supposed to be, what it was all along. So he actually made that revival again of, and I mean, that is how it came, because we went through these struggles in our history. That is why we also have to write our history. We can't just be thinking of the past and only of the past when we now in the position and we are the people to write the history today. Just like the younger generation, really the people and them with the duty to do it tomorrow.
But you see, the segregation that actually encountered, let's look at the United States of America. We had two black brothers, one dealing with the issue of segregation, one dealing with the issue of congregation. Malcolm X dealt with the issue of segregation. Martin Luther King dealt with the issue of congregation.
Of what?
Congregation. Bringing people together, while Malcolm X was speaking about, let us not deal with the Caucasian people. They are the evils, they are the bad ones. Whereas Martin Luther King was trying to tell you, let's congregate, because one day I will see my 4 children holding hands together with the white guy or the Caucasian guy to have America as one big country. And Malcolm X saw it differently. Why do you think that was?
I think both of them were relevant. Both of them were still relevant. It had to be. Because Malcolm X, in his revolutionary way of thinking of things, you cannot blame him or blame anyone for thinking so. It was still relevant. It was still a way to make people know yourself and know that these people are not our masters and we shouldn't just be driven. So yes, Martin Luther had that other way of operation, which was still good. We still had its impact. So we need to recognize these people, the Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings, the George Padmores, the Rosie Douglases, the Stokely Carmichaels, the Walter Rodneys in Guyana. We need to recognize these people as the people and them who were instrumental in bringing us to, in giving us that education that could inform us of who we are. We need to highlight them. But everything is being watered down now. So we can hardly hear of these people. And calculatedly, we can't hardly know of these people and their achievements. Who knows of Walter Rodney? Walter Rodney was killed in Guyana some years ago.
1980.
Exactly. Who even think of Walter Rodney?
But we don't speak about Walter Rodney and the work that he did. I just played the incident about Walter Rodney earlier on. Who speaks of Walter Rodney and the influence that he had about the whole issue of Black Panther and the whole issue of black liberation?
Exactly.
Talking about Africa.
Exactly. They are unknown. And these are the people we need to highlight. These are the people we need to build upon.
Let's not also forget the work that Fidel Castro himself played. The role that Fidel himself played for the black race.
Definitely.
And especially that of Africa.
Definitely.
One of his purpose as president of the Republic of Cuba was to ensure that Africans are liberated.
Definitely.
So he sent people to Angola to fight for the Angolans. He was able to give the Africans the opportunity to come to Cuba to be educated and to go back to Africa to help in the development of health and other areas.
And that is quite respectable.
So we must not forget the work also of Fidel Castro. So there are some great leaders in the region. I think someone wants to engage us on the telephone. The person has to call back. Let's take that person. Good evening to you, caller.
Oh.
Good evening, caller.
Okay. Are you in there?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Lower down the volume of your radio, please.
Okay. You hear me better now?
You still have a feedback.
Okay, come in.
Yeah, you still have a feedback, so try to load up the volume of your radio so that we can hear you clearly. You're there with us? Still, please just load down the volume. Is it your television, your radio, whatever device that you're using?
I hear you.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, speak to us.
I'm in.
Talk to me.
I'm Lakou.
Yes, I hear the voice.
Well, you see, Castro had to do that because Castro was a revolutionary. You dig? And his duty was to free up people no matter what color. You hear me? You hear me, man?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
So when Castro did that, he wasn't going for him just to live with black or white, wherever he live. But apart from that, I want to tell Cecil, Africa, we call the Mole of Africa, control the whole of Europe for hundreds of years. You I tell you, sir? You hear me?
I'm hearing that point.
Yes, I tell you, African control the whole of Europe, the world, including England, the whole of Asia. The first Queen of England was Queen Charlotte. She was a Moor. You think? The first Queen of England, and all of them have black blood in them. All the royal language have black blood in them. Because the first Queen of England was Queen Charlotte. Hannibal controlled Rome for 400 years. You see? So when come for black, and even when you go in Australia, the Aborigines are black people, first settlers. And James Cook just come and decide he discovered Australia. That is a lie, because black people was there already. So when you talk about Africa, Africa is give the whole civilization. That is what I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Like sometimes history gives you something different, you know. The caller said that the first black queen of England, or the first queen of England, was a black woman. But history is telling me that the first queen of first or England's first official queen was Mary Tudor, in 1553. So sometimes the history is relevant to who actually writes it at the time, And I'm not that I'm disputing what you're saying, caller, but I'm not saying what the history of England is actually belching out to me, But you see, yes, you go ahead.
Yeah, well, like I say, in all these things there now, we can look at that. We have to look at that as the past. Quite rightly, it is the past. And how do we move on? How do we move on from this time on? How do we elevate ourselves? How do we raise ourselves from a third world country to a first world country? Because we have everything that it needs to do that. But there are so many things that are affecting our people. I mean, quite apart from the legacies of slavery, which is still existent, which is still really what is crippling our people. That we have to have a new psychology. You see? So that is hurting our people seriously, those legacies. Because in our society today, some people would ask the question or say, why should we be referring to slavery?
Somebody else, sorry about that call. Sorry about that. Somebody else on the telephone. Good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, let me tell you something now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book on this. The volume 1, J.A. Rogers, Sex and Race, and Queen Charlotte right there.
Well, as I said to you, caller, right? It indicated that Mary Tudor was Queen of England in 1553. Now, Charlotte, all right, Charlotte was born over 200 years later. She was born in 1744 and died in 1818. And she was the Queen of Great Britain and Ireland as the wife of King George III. So I'm reading from what the history book says. I'm not saying that you are wrong. I'm not saying that they are right. But I'm saying what's before me has indicated that Queen Mary Tudor was there in 1553. 200 years later, in 1744, Sophia Charlotte was born, 19th of May. Died on 17th of November, 1887. But she was the Queen of Great Britain and Ireland as of the wife of King George III. So I'm just giving you that information that I have.
But that I have there, King George IV have there. That you right, that is what I have there.
Mm-hmm.
But be that as it may,
Yeah.
right now we're in 2024.
That's correct. Thank you.
History have to be taught.
Yes, we have to know about our history. I quite aware of that.
Not false history, it's true history.
Yeah. But right now, we're still calling for a movement forward. We're in 2024.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And while we can look again at all what happened in the past, but not for it to dampen our spirits, but for us to recognize it, be aware of it, and how do we now deal with the challenge of development and progress.
Yes, but we
And
have
that
to
is
use the
essential.
history to develop our people, the history.
Yes, but we can't only dwell on it.
No,
We have to-
it has to be taught.
Not only taught, taught and cherished and embraced.
Well, yes.
Because
it's true.
we can
But- yes.
teach all the history to our people, and if the people don't embrace it and honor it, it's just like a subject which is taught for GCE.
According to how it's been taught.
Yeah, according to how it's being taught, but I'm saying, okay. But we're in 2024. I'd like to see us start to move forward. I'd like to see us start to stop blaming others and start to look within ourselves now to see the power that we lie within us, or we can transform that to greater levels.
The real education has to be introduced.
And it has to be introduced, it has to be with the young people.
That is where it started.
That is where it's has to be
To
because
start. Yeah.
we
And-
quite a
And Moko, just to tell you quickly, right?
Yeah.
I'm further reading that it says that when King George III of Britain succeeded to the throne in 1760, he was 22 and unmarried, and the 17-year-old Princess Charlotte was an obvious choice for a wife. All right?
I listen to you.
So I'm just telling you that based on information that yes, King Charlotte, a black woman, was the Queen of England, but she was not the first. Mary Tudor was the first in
Yeah.
1553.
But
Thank you.
do not forget before you go that we control Britain. Black people control Britain and save them in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, put that in your mind.
Thank you. All right. Yes,
yes.
Imani.
I want us to start to control our lands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we have nothing to control right now. All the resources of Africa, which makes Africa the richest continent on the earth, have been utilized by the Caucasians. And it's still leaving us poor and undeveloped. So we have to see how we can. That is why the issue of reparation is so important to our people, which is something we can really rally around and start to educate our people and our children about all these things and why it is necessary for us to have reparations. Because we live in a society which is crucial, you know, and we live in a world now that is so crucial. There are things happening in the world now that I never dreamt of. What is happening in Gaza today, I think I would have seen something like that existing today. So the world is in a crucial state, and we have to know where we stand in the scheme of things. So we have to look at our struggle and our advancement. I mean, it has to start with the youths. It has to start with the education of the youths, because it's not nothing against our older generation, but because of the legacies of slavery and because of how we were so beaten badly, that the strength is almost gone from them. And we now have to look to see how future generations can make things different. That is why I sometimes like to see what happened, for example, after we had the Floyd incident in America some years ago. It was so good to see black and white people demonstrating together, you know, for the same cause. So it's looking as though the world can take a different shift, but it has to deal with the coming generations and how they begin to think and how they begin to do things.
Let's go to the telephone quickly. Good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, good evening there to Mr. Joseph, and good evening to the Celestia children of Celestia son.
Greetings.
Now, I read everything I listen to them, really and truly, because you see what happening now when I go to Jamaica, I meet Mr. Martin Plano and I meet Mr. Muto Baruka. Now, what I understand now, if we black people are the foundation of creation, we give everyone life, make them know themselves, right? And as far as I understand again now, a black woman can bring any type of child in the world and nobody else can do it. Why we are the one following everything? Why we are the one under all this separation and all different ways and form? Which means now, we have to get wise about the life, you know. When you still don't have asset, you're not in nothing. It's that you just is zero. These people come to our place, we call our motherland, as we say, we make them know themselves. They come and they take advantage. They take all our resources, they go to the place, they build the place, they build the people, and they put us on the plantation, and they give us their philosophy, and that was our biggest problem. And that's why you find right there in the Caribbean, we only fighting ourselves, because why? We haven't know our heritage. You see me? I'm a servant of the majesty. I'm a real fireman. Nobody can bring me. I bring it myself. I never have to speak or to get you. I'm listening. I can say a million things, but don't forget this month, as they say, is Black History Month. So we can shout out. And we have to dig up all the great men like Mr. Ruzi. I call him my national hero for sure. So our problem we have right now in this new era, what we have to do, Nirasta, Bobo, Shanti, Nayabili, all black people need to get themselves together. Reform ourselves, reorganize ourselves. Let's put ourselves together. Let's see how we can find back our assets so we could have a voice in that world. Up and running, fireman running, give thanks for life. Bless up.
Thank you very much, caller. Yes.
Unity is very crucial, critical, and that is what is will always be the chant, because we seem to be so far away from that aspect of things, the unity of our people, and divide and rule. Basically, that is what keeping us apart. And these things existing from since slavery. Sometimes I don't know. I even tend to look at Dominican situation, Dominica being discovered on a Sunday, whether that had an effect on us as a people. Whether that made us more subservient and more subjugated and more afraid to say anything or say this or say that. Or take everything how it comes. I don't know if that is thing, but we live in a society that created with divisions. Religious, political, economic divisions. And that has been the bugbear of our people, of our nation. Like I read earlier on, I say Africans are in bondage today because they have put spirituality through religion provided by foreign invaders and conquerors. If these people couldn't treat us well, according to Farrakhan, how could they teach us well? Does that make sense? If somebody is treating you badly, will they teach you good? So we have to look at these things as real, as what happened to us is a real thing.
Do you think, Imani, that the fall of ism, especially the Cold War, is the cause why we are now less conscious of our blackness, less conscious of where we need to go, what we need to do? Because I remembered growing up that based on the side of the fence that you were on or you were at, you do an inner consciousness research, and you get to know much more of who you are. So, for instance, a guy who was a socialist or who is a socialist would be able to speak about imperialism, neo-fascist or fascism, would be able to speak about capitalism, and would bring all of this to show a true representation of who you were as a black person. Do you think that the fall of ism has created that void among us?
In some way, the Cold War has had that kind of effect on us. We were again engrossed in that situation, although it was not our struggle per se. America, Russia, we talk about the Cold War. No, these things assisted us along the way because of the fact that, for example, Cuba being a so-called communist country.
Socialist. I always people say that I like to correct people.
They
Socialist.
call it communist too. For some reason we grew up in Cuba communist.
But the correct thing is to say that they were socialist country. The Cubans always say that they are socialist country. So I never like people to give that wrong information. The Soviet Union was communist. Red China was communist. But the Republic of Cuba was always socialist.
Okay, the Bila is big, but I mean, we looked at that aspect of the struggle as being closer to us because Africa is fighting for liberation struggle as well from the colonialists and the capitalists. So we could identify to some extent with that struggle. But what happened is that when that evaporated and was no more, we also evaporated and was no more. So, for example, we had a lot of our intellectuals, or black power intellectuals and so on, and the MNDs of the time and so on, which was involved in the struggle in the 70s, when there's that whole black consciousness uprising and arising, and they were involved in that. And then the falling away of Dominican history from, as I explained earlier, the working class of Iolibla to the land-owning class of the Freedom Party, that falling away of the history has some effects. So when that land-owning class became the power again, what actually happened in the Caribbean that made these people now who were advocates of the black power and the struggle as though just dissipate, just go back into almost hiding and seclusion. Grenada, through Maurice Bishop, was a very critical time in that whole path of the movement for the prosperity and for the advancement and development of our people. And I applaud Maurice Bishop for that. Now, the difficulties again for our people, not being able to stay close together and keep that unity, keep that bond, that caused that friction in Grenada among the people and them who were advocating for and who were responsible for bringing Grenada to where it was in the struggle. That friction that caused now, and that is what always happened to us, the same kind of thing like slavery, caused now America to come in and take advantage of the situation. And from America came in and took advantage of the situation, what happened? All our black power intellectuals just actually went into the background, was no more. It's as though they became scared or afraid of what I know.
Or can we say it's because that they saw those frontliners of the black consciousness were able to betray each other, and so they saw no need to continue fighting?
I don't think it's so. I think that we did not have a foundation to build upon. Because when we had the Cold War and East against West, we tried to identify ourselves with the East, not realizing that we are not part of any of these factions, but we had to develop our Africanity. That is what we had to develop.
No. If you look at the 70s, you had a basin of people who somewhat gave support to the ideology of the East, but our leaders, and to a greater extent the people, had an affinity to the West. So I wouldn't agree with you that we try to make ourselves in line with someplace. I think it was a mixture of both, where our leaders from the 70s, you still had in the 70s one or two black conscious leaders. We speak about Leblanc, we speak about Via Bird, but we couldn't say Eric Gary was conscious. We couldn't say that Errol Barrow was conscious. We couldn't say that Siaga was conscious. There was we couldn't, we could say that this guy from Guyana, Forbes Burnham, had that consciousness. We can say Michael Manley had that consciousness. But when you look at a greater percentage of the people in terms of fighting West and fighting East, our leaders directed us, and you had more persons going on to the West.
No, well, who I'm specifically talking about were our black power leaders at the time.
Okay. You're correct.
The Para-Riviers,
you're correct.
The Ron Greens, the Bernard Wilshires, the Julian Johnsons, and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they actually just succumb, just let go.
No, I don't think they succumb. I think because when Grenada under Maurice Bishop, when Maurice Bishop took over Grenada through an invasion, as some people say, unconstitutionally, you had some leaders of the region who were not in support of Grenada and Maurice Bishop. Quite a number of leaders, including Dominica.
I think they were just not in support of the coup business.
They were not in support of...
But not of Maurice Bishop per se as a
No.
person. But the way...
No, Maurice Bishop was the leader of the coup.
Yes.
So there is no way that they could be in support of Maurice Bishop and still say that they don't want the coup. All right. Eventually, later on, after Maurice Bishop government stayed within 2 years, the countries of the region start to gel with Maurice Bishop, understanding now his ideology. He's going to the United Nations meetings. He's talking to various leaders of the region. He's talking to the leaders of the world. So now they came to have a greater understanding of who Maurice Bishop was. And you will realize that the first opportunity that the United States got to help to derail Maurice Bishop and its organization and its government, they took the opportunity. Because they were not in support of Maurice Bishop. I want us to remember that.
At all.
They were not in support. And that's why I'm saying that I believe that the Para-Riviers, the Bernard Wilshires, the Ron Green, and those guys who believed in Maurice Bishop, who believed in the ideology of Maurice Bishop as a socialist, they got disappointed to know that Bernard Cord, who was part of the system, sell them out, betrayed them, and felt that their hands were tied and they couldn't fight anymore.
But I still just shouldn't accept that as a reason why they should cease. You know, I think that we always seem to want to hold on to some foreign ideology. So it's either east or west. And not just understanding that what we are building up, because of our race and our nation and what we have gone through, we are in a peculiar situation. That we have to now look at our fears and don't align with any one of them. While we still will align in the form of will still deal with any one of them. Because I don't think we can separate or try to say that we're only going to deal with East or only with the West. It's nations in the world. We have to cooperate, we have to coordinate, we have to deal with them all. You see? But then because we didn't have that strong foundation to hold on to, we seem to lost the view and the vision of Africanity.
No, but at the same
and only looking at East and West.
No, but at the same time, Africa themselves did not recognize us. Let us be honest with ourselves.
That is all part of the legacies, Cecil, of slavery.
Africa,
come on, Cecil.
No,
that is part of the legacies of slavery.
But that is not accepted.
But it can.
That's not accepted.
And when you say Africans, there are Africans who still accepted us for who we were.
Yes, there were.
And some of the leaders as well.
Yes, there were.
You know, but the legacies of slavery, you see what we had to fight against? That even our own people would not want to accept us? You see what we're fighting against, Cecil? It's not an easy struggle. So we're coming from a serious challenge. But I think today we have overcome much of that. I don't think it is as prevalent as how it used to be before, because even our own people in this land will not accept that they are Africans. And all they will be telling us is, oh, Africans don't want us, and Africans don't know us, and Africans this and Africans that. So that is the legacies of slavery, that they so erased everything from our mind relating to Africa that we've even found it difficult to align ourselves with who we are. And therefore that brings more confusion.
But if we say this though, Imani, Africa, as we all say and we were taught in school, rich with elements, rich with minerals,
Richest
rich with
continent,
gold,
richest continent, on
richest
the earth.
continent on the earth. And they are to understand the value of the ancestors. And that as a people in the new world, as Christopher Columbus called us, in the Caribbean, why can't the same kind of United Nations policies, World Bank policies, those type of policies that are set up to help in the development of the third world, why can't Africa, if they believe in us in the Caribbean, put aside monies that would help its descendants?
That will help.
Help its descendants. Help the third world countries, the Caribbean.
Cecil,
Yes.
I going to put it the other way around to you. Marcus Garvey once said that we, in this scattered lands around the Caribbean and the West, are going to be the key people to help unite Africa. He said that. So while we think of Africa meaning want to help us, I think we are the ones who need to help them.
Africa has 1.3 billion people. In the region, in the black region, we don't have 12 million.
Yeah, but I'm talking about consciousness and spirituality. Now I'm talking about, Cecil,
But
the foundation of our existence.
No, but if Africa was the civilized world some 700 years ago, before slavery came to our parts, why can they not be the leaders of creating that consciousness for us? Because we have said that we are being enslaved.
Because of what we went through. Because of what we went through that Atlantic passage from east to come down to here. So, we maybe have something that they don't have. Because of what we went through, because of our experience. Today, Marcus Garvey was clear and he said that we would be the ones to unite a divided continent. You know the effect of Bob Marley on Zimbabwe?
Yeah, I know.
You know, hold on, Muku. You know the effect of Zimbabwe on Bob Marley? Bob Marley on Zimbabwe? Bob Marley was the one who caused the Zimbabwean guerrilla fighters to be strong.
That is true.
Because when he say Africa liberates Zimbabwe, and when that reached the guerrilla fighters, you know the strength they received and got from that?
I mean,
You know the strength people got from Marcus Mosiah Garvey?
I mean,
Talk to me, Muku.
prisoners was in jail and they jumped the jail to go and see Mali, and after the show they go back in jail,
Exactly. So that is the effect. That is the effect I'm showing you that we in the West.
Yeah, break the barrier.
We in
And
the
after
West.
the show they go back in jail.
Yeah. It's true. So that is the effect that we in the West have on the land, Africa, because of our experiences and our struggles. You see? So we don't worry about the little 12 million and the 400 billion thing. Don't worry about that. Just worry about the spirituality, the network, the creation of something different, of something new, the linkages, the unity. Because, Cecil, basically that is what affected our people there. The divide and rule philosophy on our people is still prevalent today. It's still existing today, even as we speak.
But then if you're saying this, Imani, let us look at South Sudan and North Sudan. Look at what's happening with them now.
Mm-hmm.
They are two African states.
Mm-hmm.
We saw South Africa and its battles under the apartheid regime. Then we saw the ANC coming in, and we saw the fights among the ANC leaders to this present day. We look at Nigeria, and we sometimes when we discuss economics and finance, we don't look at Nigeria as one of the best example of Africa. Why all of this is going on while we're talking about building an Africa where we should admire to make the world a different and a better place? Why should we?
Why should we?
Look at Africa as the land, the motherland, to really lead us into prosperity. When we have seen some of the black countries that we are talking about not living in
Yes, Cecil, we can also say in the Caribbean we're not living in peace neither. It's not only in Africa, Cecil. Right on our doorsteps as we speak today.
I'm talking about the whole concept of Africa, the motherland, where we have to look up to for the success that we're looking for. And I'm saying when we look at the situation in many of the African states, we still see tribal wars.
Yes, Cecil, and I'm saying this tribal wars even affecting us too. It's not only in Africa it's affecting us too. Even in Dominica, as we speak. It's something that affecting black people generally, Cecil. Generally. The effects of disunity. The effects of religion provided by foreign invaders and conquerors. Why should a place like Dominica have 50,000 religions? And everybody seems to be proclaiming the same
God.
Huh?
The same God.
What sense does it make when we have to have that religious division? What sense does it make when our religions have to be even divided, even within yourself? That the people who go to the same religion are divided among themselves? What sense does it make when those things happening? When I hear people on your Lakou program state already that they couldn't go and sit down in that queue in a church. Why that religious division is only meant to keep us further disunited. They only meant. We have no religion that is based on our foundation, on our own will. All religions are imported and come down to us. And everybody making a name and coming for religion and keeping us further disunited. Why our political parties are so disunited? What good is it doing to us as a people when we have that kind of infighting and conflict and confusion? It's not only in Africa, Cecil. Right here. Why we have, and what caused Rasta is to question all these things. Religion, politics, economics. There's division right through. Unless we can start to understand that we are one people, one nation, moving with one destiny, we're going to be locked in that kind of scenario for how long, I don't know. I hope it's not long. But it's locking us, Cecil, locking us. We had a class society. Right now we can see things changing, things moving along slowly. Black people couldn't work in the bank before. All those things, all those divisions among us and within us that hamper in our progress. And I don't know how long it will take for us to realize and recognize who we are. Because of our mentality, I tell people that don't care what political party is in government, because of the mentality of our people, there's not going to be change. Change comes from within. And all the time our people have the same attitudes of lack of nationhood. Our cultural disciplines have eroded. And we need to build back those things because that is the essence of who we are. Our cultural values. And when I talk about cultural values, I'm not just talking about song and dance. I'm talking about how we live. Our culture, how we relate to each other. We always hear the saying, the village raised the child. Which village is raising the child today? So we are left in that scenario, in that state of affairs. Our Kudme system of work, that is culture, is not happening. Because everybody seems to be selfish and on their own. That cultural part of our life, passing in the morning and saying good morning and good afternoon and good night, that is culture, you know. That is culture. Those things are being eroded right now. People used to pass in the morning, morning, Ma Simon. We are these things. That is culture. It's going. Our identity, who we are. If we want to keep that, put that in our mind and put that in our, we go nowhere. Our nationhood, Cecil, Cecil, you know how difficult it is for people to work together?
Let's take that call quickly. Good evening to you, caller.
Yes, fireman again, the fire burning. And Mr. Emmanuel, you're so correct. You said something earlier on there was so great, you know. If some people want to show you love and respect as human being or as humanity, you think they will give you something to make you recognize yourself? But I tell you a long time, you know. And you're so correct on that because why? That is the problem we have. And that's why even the religion, I'll tell you, I don't know kind of a member of religion, you know. I'm a spiritual person because why? The Father creators, as they say, is own image and likeness. And true, we know what we know. And it's a very long time Rastafari been preaching the truth. But they side past it because why? They think Rastafari is smoking marijuana. They don't have education. They are doing everything that's illegal or in other words, you're saying unruly. You know what I'm saying? But Rastafari, in this time and in always in this world from a very long time, we don't have this spiritual value in this world and the love and respect for humanity, you know. See the amount of things they say to Brother Bob, Peter Tosh, think of them. Watch the energy today because of the energy they bring to the world. That the power of the majesty is so great in this time. So them man will do anything in their right to try to block us. But we know we have the truth. That's why I tell my Lord, I say already as man, every one of us have a responsibility in this time. That's why I said to bring in no crack, no gun, nothing to this world humanity. We have to do the right thing. And all the problem black people have, they love to lie too much. That's why that religion, that have them confused like that. Before they using in terms, is lie they want to lie. Stop lie. And we find ourselves, as the brother say, unity is strength. Unless we cannot find ourselves to unite as a great black family to do so much, we can do it. And as before I wrote again, it's really true. As Marcus Garvey say, we in the Caribbean that to show Africa the light. Because why? The amount of advantage it take on Africa itself is we in the Caribbean that have seen the light. So we are bringing the strength to unite Africa. And when Africa unite, this world will have justice. Up and running again, fireman running. I'm listening and give thanks for.
Yes, I.
I like that last line.
Yes, I.
I like that last line about when Africa have peace, you know, they all have justice.
It's true. His Majesty said that too. When righteous Africans leaders come together, the world will come together. We have that responsibility.
But Africa is still separated by so many different things. Africa is separated by the Arab states. They're separated by blackness. They're separated by economic powers. They're separated by poverty. They are separated by tribes. And these things creates for Africa an uneasiness.
Yes, but people have to recognize that, look here, what ethnicity you belong to, what tribe you belong to, whatever you belong to, there's still a fundamental concept that we are one people. When the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's rooftop. It falls on all of us. And the only time it's seeming that we can take things seriously is when we have a disaster. So when disaster comes, everybody becomes spiritual again. Nobody don't know which religion you belong to or which party you belong to because everybody in the same boat. And that is the only time we find spirituality. And then as soon as things come back to normal, we lose it again. So these are the things that we have to be thinking about, Cecil. Think about our spirituality, you know, and crush that division. It has been existing for too long now. And I just hate to hear the stage that we have reached, even in our land. Africa has a lot of conflicts, a lot of things to try to cure, and I hoping that the AU, as it is called now, African Union, because I heard they had some meetings this week, and they want to begin to look at all those conflicts and see how we can remedy the situation. Because what is it? How we can have two people fighting in Sudan for power and people suffering, and people dying and people starving? What kind of mind is created? How we make ourselves reach that level? So we have to understand, don't care of who we are, we can still come together as a people. And we need to do that. And if you say you can do that, even our land as a start, then we have that power now to transfer it out. But if we cannot do it, where do we stand? So let us look at who we are, where we're going, what is our destiny. All those things are supposed to be in tune. And like I was saying, or working together, or building together, or nationhood. Too many people and too many of us in Dominica, we're too laid back. We grew up on a culture of being laid back because we could always get a hand of fig or pick up mango on the road or get breadfruit here and this here. So we had that laid back mentality which is hurting us today. We're not aggressive, we're not initiating things. Or people will go to university, come back and just want to sit down on a paid job. And there's no initiation, there's nothing. Few and far between will come and set up some industrial vibration or set up something that can employ people too. But we just laid back. We still fighting each other, we still keeping down each other.
Let's take a call quickly. Let's take a call. Good evening to you, caller.
Yes, Cecil, good night. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yes, this is a very interesting conversation this evening. Yes, I heard the brother mention some things earlier on, concerning has really separated us, have us against each other is the religion. Like he said, there were so many different religions and everybody's calling on one God. When we read our minds of these systems that have been placed for us, then we will find out who we are. Religion, like you said, politics, even the educational system sets us apart from each other. Yes. We feel, okay, we went to a university, we are educated.
Yes.
Educated in what?
Yes.
Just to get a job, to survive?
Right.
We have to come together and reason like he is doing. We need more of that. We need more conscious people on the island. There is no reason as black people, not even 80,000 people on the island, to be separated the way we are because of politics. Mm-hmm. We need to rise up. We need to change our mentality in order for us to prosper as a... Cecil, I really give you the honor, of having people like this brother on the program to educate us, because we are taught in everything else but our own history. We have to go back to Kemet, Egypt, and find out who we were, the great people we were. Sure. What has brought us to our knees? We have to come to realize certain things have been dividing us, so we need to pick up ourselves and move forward. You understand?
Thank you.
Anyway, program.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Let's take another caller. Good evening to you, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you, caller.
Cecil, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Hi, Manny.
I'm good. Yeah,
what's up?
Yes, man. I'm good, man.
Let me just give a quick perspective. I didn't catch everything, but let me thank you for this program. I think it's absolutely necessary to just educate and just give different perspective. Let me just state categorically that one, that the history of slavery has always been a history of resistance, and the resistance started in Africa. We need to clarify the fact that the African chiefs and kings and queens, we had the society organized, well organized before, with the royals and everything, would not just be passively by and allow the people to be taken. Africa had its wars, tribal wars, but the difference is that the people who were captured, they were integrated into the society of whichever person captured them. So they actually became part of the society where they worked and integrated. So you cannot compare that to what happened when they were forcibly taken and
I will not agree with you, caller. I will not agree with you.
Well, you may not agree.
because
listen. Listen.
I'm listening.
Listen, my brother.
I'm listening.
Good. That is the explanation that has been given and the research. It was always resistant. There were leaders for sure who connived at everything else. There are all the leaders who will never be together and assist. But the essence, sometimes you must look at the small part. The essence of it, there was always a resistance, and the resistance started from Africa, from within. The minority who may have allowed, because remember, they had to, wherever they captured it, they had to pass through kingdom. So they had to get permission from some of them, and you know it is. Now, just imagine you there with your way of life, easy going, and these people come with all the guns and all that things. You accept them as normal, and then they just turn on you. And so we are saying that there was collaboration, but that wasn't the essence that made so many African people leave Africa. So we agree to that. Let me continue the question of resistance. The resistance continued along the path to the ships. You know, some people actually jump off the ship rather than go. A lot of people jump up and died. All that was part of the resistance. The resistance continued when they came. For example, in Dominica, when they came on the plantation and they were working, they ran away. And they organized their societies, the Negmawo, and it was important, the Negmawo who aided and collaborated with the Kalinago who were there first. So there was a collaboration and understanding between the Kalinago and the Negmawo. Now, you have to understand that when you hear them names of Bala, Congo, these were guys who were chiefs in their country. So when they came, these guys with their proudness decided we cannot stay in that, and they ran away and established the Maroons. And just imagine, Cecil, it has to be a mighty people to go through all that and still able to live remnants of their culture, language, way of life that we enjoy today. At independence, we dance ballet, we eat certain foods, we use certain herbs. So that is the message we try to push for. At the same time, the reparation struggle is real and just because the slave owners got paid. They got paid. But the slaves who are the origins of the wealth didn't get paid. So it's clear that it wasn't a passive thing. The resistance happened from Africa. Some of the chiefs colluded, fine, but that wasn't the majority. That was the minority.
Colluded, you saying? That's a mild word. They sold.
No, that's the word. They sold.
They sold. No. They sold. Let's be honest with ourselves. Some of these kings and queens, by virtue of trade, they sold their brothers who was, for them, against their ideology, against their tribe, and were not the same type of tribes with them.
But would you say, Cecil, that...
Why would they sell them? And when they capture them, they were not killed. When they captured them, they were integrated.
No, they don't have to. No. Integrated. Most of these people that were sold to these Europeans were in jail, like that we saw in Australia.
Question.
You understand how the African society was organized? So where would they be in jail?
If you were a different tribe, we all know that tribalism took place. It was the order of the day. And by virtue of that, these tribes who were against those kings and queens, they would be placed in jail in some place. And
No, but the tribe,
when
hold on. Let me clear that. The tribe is not, the tribe against king and queen. A tribe is a tribe. You have a tribe, the tribe have its organized society.
Right, and there's another...
You have its kings and queens of a particular tribe. They have issues with another tribe.
That's
they go
correct.
to war. Whoever wins,
they take over.
Whoever loses, these people are captured
Yes.
and they are integrated in society and work. But you cannot compare that
integrated
to the transatlantic passage to how people were treated up to here.
Question. Do we know how many people were brought down from Africa to the Caribbean?
I don't think we have the correct number.
Any idea whatsoever?
There are some estimates.
What estimate you have?
They were able to, you will never know because the amount of them who jump off the ship too. So they're giving some estimate as to how many.
But what estimate you have?
I can't remember it off my head now.
Because what I'm trying to say is that according to what the estimate is, would that estimate represent people who were captured alone by kings and sold? Would it be only that?
Very good point.
The millions or how many thousands of people came down, were they all prisoners in Africa?
Definitely not.
Exactly.
Definitely not.
Exactly. So let us put the
Definitely
so I made a research. Doc,
discussion.
Doc, I made a research. It says that approximately 388,000 Africans were directly shipped to the North American during the transatlantic trade, slave trade, which spanned from 1525 to 1866.
388,000.
Yes.
And out of that 388,000, you think there 300,000 were prisoners? You think 300,000 were prisoners?
Very good point.
They were not. They were 388 were not prisoners.
No, but you do think out of the 388,000?
But they may not have been prisoners. But they would have been people that is anti the king and queen.
But if they were not prisoners, they couldn't be sold.
I think what you do, you trying to like put the situation like you taking from their time and put it in modern time. There's a question of anti. You have tribe and tribe. You have tribe against tribe. They're fighting for land. They're fighting for whatever. Like tribe against tribe. You have many tribes. So there's a question of you against a king or a queen. You belong to a tribe. You belong to a tribe. That one is another tribe, and you have history of. But what the point we are saying is that the minority or the percentage that may have been sold, for want of a better word, compared to the total amount. When you think of it, it shows that the majority were forcibly taken on their own.
Have to be.
And brought.
Have
to be.
Have to be.
Yeah. So it has to be.
Have to be.
But in closing, because it's a very good vibe, we say right now we have moved from all these phases, slavery, colonization, emancipation, although it wasn't a complete emancipation, to independence. I heard Imani made a few good points there. A key point is the freedom fighters were focusing on getting the freedom, but after that, the same guys who got the freedom from the colonialists, they were still able to re-infiltrate back in terms of the whole governance and set up structures and systems that have us. Just imagine a simple one. Like, we know there's a direct route from Ghana to Barbados, from Jamaica to Nigeria, from Antigua to one of the islands. So they ensured that to go Africa, you have to go England, Paris, America. So that way, so no matter how many steps you make, they create systems to control. No, to go Ethiopia, you have to go England 8 hours and another 7 hours. If you have a direct flight, and I'm happy that CARICOM has established that link, CARICOM Africa, they celebrate CARICOM Africa Day. That is a step in the right direction, where we can together try to develop that link, and so more and more people can move about and get to know each other. So the process is on, and let me inform also that there was a visit of African royals to Guyana, to Antigua, to Jamaica, and then authentic royals. Those who read about anything, but these people for real, the king and queen came down. So the whole process now is to develop that link. So you could have better coordination and better understanding of the system. So, and I also want to state, I said it, that the history of Africa didn't start with slavery. And if people just take themselves a little back and see Africa before and the organization of the society, the kind of structure and the kind of invention that we enjoy even up to this present day, you know?
Yeah.
So we have to feel proud, and I said, I'm proud that I'm descendants of a mighty race. And say it loud.
Yes, I give you black and proud, man.
Before you go, Doc, I'm going to read something. I made a small research there. I love my research. It says that African rulers and merchants played a significant role in the transatlantic slave trade. Military, political, and religious authority, which Imani spoke about earlier on, within the West Africa determined who control access to the Atlantic slave trade. And some African elites, some African elites, such as in those in the Dahomey and Ashanti Empire, took advantage of this control and used it to their profit by enslaving and selling other Africans to European traders.
Fine.
However,
but exactly what we're saying here. We're not denying it, we're saying some. But
however,
the perception we're trying to erase. So all the kings and queens in cohorts. We're saying some, as happened.
Some.
Divide and rule. Man convince you, man give you whatever.
No, but also, but listen to what it says. It says African rulers and merchants. So the kings and the business people also to look at military, political and religious authority. They too had their sense of business with the Europeans.
But logical,
and that it says who, no?
Huh?
And that it says who?
The elite.
No, your research says who?
Says who, meaning what?
Says who is bringing forward that research?
Who bring that forward, that research?
Yeah.
No, I just went to my research on Google and I get it.
Oh.
Partner. Okay. Google.
No.
I just showing you two a quick thing. Remember when you were growing up, we used to read that history book, Christopher Columbus discovered Dominica.
Right. No, but Google not telling
until
that.
But
Google isn't. I'm not Google isn't saying that.
What I'm saying, a lot of things that you may see.
No, let us not. Let's be fair. No, let us fair to Google. When it is good on our side, when we put
out the information, our own story.
If I go to Google and I ask Google,
by the story from their side.
No,
I think let us start to write our history. That is the
most
important thing right now.
So that's what I'm saying. Whoever writes the history will. It depends on who reads it to say how relevant it is.
No, but
what is the truth?
At the same time,
the truth is for the Europeans to leave Europe to get across. They did not kill our leaders and go and steal people. They had to get it from the merchants who did business. They had to get it from the kings.
But
they had to get it from the church.
Not only so.
How not only so?
It cannot be only so, Cecil. These people too brutal. They're too brutal for that to be the only way. Don't give me that picture there.
It's not as nice as easy.
They're too brutal. That was too much brutality.
But when they purchase the commodity, and the commodity gets onto the ship, they do what they want. If they
but it wasn't only
so that's the brutality.
But that couldn't be the only way.
But
I am not be the only way.
But I am saying to you, it also indicated that the kings and queens and the merchants, they were going in the interior to get their slaves.
Yes, but Felix, I'm saying out of the 380 something million, whatever, how many could have been captured that way?
So it's saying also.
If we don't know that figure, we can't say anything
it is
unless we don't know that.
You think it would be easy for them to just go into the interior in another tribe and just pick up people?
Well, they had to get permission to do that, my brother. There were pots. And they had to get
there
permission.
There was permission, no.
Yes, they had to get permission.
But the permission was given because remember,
yes,
if you have to cross you have to get permission. So some of them were like passive permission, you offer them something and they allow you to use their land to pass. Some of them, as you say, were active in the collusion. We agree to that. But what you're saying, that factor cannot by any means compare to what we went through.
So
And
yes,
we're saying at
so
this
we can
present time,
agree to say in the transatlantic slave trade involved European traders. So there was European traders purchasing slaves too. So when they saw the business, Europeans themselves went to Africa. So yes,
No.
yes,
Nothing about so.
Europeans went,
That's
but
the
yes, they were European.
motive of going
They
to
were,
Africa was purely an economic.
well, that's
They were
but
looking
that's
for
what I'm
people
saying to you. That's what I'm saying to
who
you.
could
So
bring us to so not because they saw what was happening, that they always have the intention to go.
it is.
So they have to find ways to divide and only put one against
It was
the other.
it was
to commit your
economics.
arms to achieve the objective.
So
but the objective was economic,
yes.
to bring people that could work on this so they could profit. And they profited because England developed, whole of Europe developed. They paid them for their property because they actually passed laws. They passed a law deeming the slave as property. So if it's property, you can do what you want with it. When emancipation, you lose your property, you have to pay. So all Europeans get paid. France, Haiti, that's why Haiti had to pay France how much millions after the fight and overthrow to get their independence because it was property and it was law. So what I'm saying is, no matter whatever step you take, they always create systems, financial, otherwise, to just keep you in check. So it's always a struggle. But I think we have made a lot of progress. I'll just say quickly that through research, through the Curriculum Reparations Commission and the 10-point plan and the pressures on the University of Glasgow, has agreed to give 20 million to UE for development of study. In fact, they have started offering programs at masters and other degrees because the research that was presented to them show how the university benefited, like they were part of the proceeds. A lot of insurance companies are now coming forward. So that's the drive of the struggle now, and I mean that link with Africa and the Caribbean is getting stronger. We have a Caribbean Africa Day, and we ourselves just have to play our part here we can. Good vibes. I'm listening.
Thank you. And I just wanted to tell, because the caller just made a very valid point about Haiti. I just wanted to make that information be known, that Haiti, formerly known as Saint Dominique, they gained the independence from France in 1804 after a successful slave rebellion. And as part of the peace agreement, France initially demanded that Haiti pay a compensation for loss of property, primarily in the loss of enslaved individuals, initially set at 150 million francs in 1825. So maybe today that value would maybe be $150 trillion, maybe, that because that is over 200 years ago, and that the payment was later reduced to 90 million francs in 1838. That's like 13 years later. Haiti struggled to meet their payment, and it was until 1947 that the last installment was made, effectively ending the financial burden imposed on by France. And the total cost of reparation to Haiti throughout the century amount to approximately $21 billion when adjusted for inflation. Wow, that is a lot of money.
It was, and I understood even from listening to Professor Beckers one time that he said that we had to work after we got emancipation.
Hello?
Yes, caller, go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Joseph.
Good evening to you.
And good evening, Brother Imani. I want to give a special appreciation to Imani for his knowledge and his time. Yeah, man, blessed love all the time, Imani. I appreciate you, I appreciate your vibes, and, so I thank you. I use a gem, my brother, and I'm glad Cecil bring you on the use a gem. You have stories to tell. You have teachings to give. All the knowledge and stuff have to come from you because it's not in a book. That's the oral history.
Yes, sir.
That we have to get from you. It's not in a book. A book is edited.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So I want to make two points tonight, and I listening to the vibes. I appreciate it. Thank you, Cecil, for organizing. I love it, man. Love the Black History vibes. 2 points I want to make. I've been listening to Cecil quoting Google or research. Cecil, you have to understand. This is the same history they've been teaching us all along. And the same history that they taught us all along. They never taught us that black people was in the West before Columbus. You check? So they never taught us that. But now we know that. We have evidence and stories to say that black people was in the West, in America, in Central America, and possibly the Caribbean, even in Dominica and the West Indies. But you will never taught that. This is the same history you're quoting and you're reading from and saying that it said this and it said that. We have to be able to be open-minded to question those kind of thinking and to do our own research. And like Imani said, to rewrite our own history.
I'm going to correct you, caller. I'm going to correct you, caller. I'm going to correct you. As soon as you said that, I Googled. And hear what Google says. Yes, black people were in the West before the arrival of the Europeans. So don't quote your own relative information. I'm saying to you that we must give proper perspective to what we read. We must analyze what we read and then come to an understanding. But don't make a carte blanche. And it says African Americans settled in American West as early as 1600, and some of them were among the founders of the early settlers of numerous towns in Texas, New Jersey, Arizona, and California, including, and it goes on and on and on and on. So don't.
Yes, understandable.
Right.
Understandable, but that is in Dominica. I do history in high school and college, and we were never taught that or that understanding or that overstanding. Okay, they never taught us that. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. But I just want to say we have to do the research. We have to be open-minded, but we have to understand that how this history has been used to enslave us and to keep us down in a certain light. Now, the other point I want to make and I want to ask about.
So before you go to the other point, caller, let me just read another point there quickly for you before you go to the other point.
Yes.
The presence of black people
sir.
in America may not have begun with slavery. You hear that? May not have begun with slavery. And evidence shows that West Africans sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas at least 180 years before Christopher Columbus. This is the same Google. You know what I'm saying?
So that is important.
In the curriculum, do they teach us that in Dominica? Where in the curriculum they ever taught us that in high school or in Dominica?
But I am saying to you,
and that is
when we went to school, there was no Google. No, we have it.
But the information was there.
But the information was there.
They never taught it to us.
Because we were given the European books.
Exactly.
That's what we had.
Exactly.
Now we have a wider
Right.
we have a wider basin of information. We can source our information and tap into.
And that's a powerful tool. I agree. It's a powerful tool, you know.
Yeah, go ahead. You'll make a second point.
What I ask about is about, what is we as our understanding as a black people, we come in terms of the Maroons, we were a revolutionary people, right? We fought, the Alcalinago fought against colonizers, the Maroons fought against the colonizers. We were revolutionary. We wasn't soft, okay? Now, we came from that to the 70s when people were also, protesting and so on and so forth and standing up for their rights and the workers' rights movement and all and whatnot and that kind of thing, the Black Power movement. So today, fast forward today, I want to know, how is it that we come from a revolutionary spirit of the Maroons to where now we are at a position where we are accepting anything or we not as forward-thinking or revolutionary as there was in the 70s or the 80s or even in the times of the Maroons? So what is it that has changed? And who is to not necessarily blame, but how can we change that? Because as we see, as a people on the island, we accepting a lot more than we did. I hear people say, what happened, that would never happen 20 years ago or even 30 years ago. That wouldn't happen, And I'm talking about just not just governance, but social issues and things that are happening affecting everybody on a daily basis. So that's why I want.
That is not totally true, caller. You had segments of people in the society, in the 70s, also in the 60s, who had ideologies that would be able to be influential to other people. But you would have seen and you would have seen and heard how those things were actually laid out. It's not just saying that people were revolutionary and they just get up one morning and they decide to do things. That's not how it was. When you look at the entire world today, caller, when you look at the entire world has changed has shifted its focus. So its focus is not about revolution anymore. Unlike before, one time we would have gotten up in the morning and we would hear Russia's invaded Poland, Russia's invaded Czechoslovakia, or we would have heard this happened in China and this happened in certain countries of the world, or would have heard the Americans have gone to a particular country and invade. Today, since after the China situation, where the student has decided that, listen, we have had enough, the world has changed.
Understandable, Cecil. But what I'm trying to say is that Dominica is not a utopia in the sense of we have our challenges, right? We have our challenges affecting everyday life, right? Why is it that 20 years ago people would not accept those challenges and they would figure out a way, whether it's through trade unions or through opposition or through black power or through, how is it that they were able to organize and not necessarily revolution might not be the right word, but at least not only talk about it but action. You know what I mean? Action. How is it that, because everything cannot be perfect. All around the world, people are protesting about different conditions, whether it's the minimum wage in America, where people say, we don't want $15, we don't want $9 an hour, we should get at least $15 an hour. You know what I mean? Whether it's food, social services, whether it's homelessness, there's issues that people are addressing. So because we don't have a utopia, yes, things nice in its ways, it is, natural beauty and things, but there are its challenges. But if we as a people are not as organized as we used to be, because that's the impression I'm getting. Again, people will say that 20 years ago, the things that are happening now will not happen again because we come from the stem of Black Power movement. We went with Imani and them, the Black Power movement. We had the women's rights movement in Dominica, right? Black Power movement, women's rights movement, anti-apartheid movement.
But saying all of these movements, tell me how much revolution that you'd have heard in those days. So tell Imani can help us.
Last year among the revolution, we had the Grenada revolution and the Cuban revolution, right? But then, again, to deal with the caller's point, I mean, a lot of things happened since those times, yeah? Mm-hmm. I mean, when the uprising of black and the black awareness began to take root in the 70s, 60s, 70s.
You still a caller?
Yes, I'm there, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
when that awareness began to take root in the 60s and 70s, right? The US, the Caribbean, especially. I mean, don't think that the powers that be stayed silent or just watched us do things, watched us protest and watched us raise our voices and become aware of things. No. There's a lot of fight. And part of the fight, right, as I said earlier on, resulted in the Maurice Bishop vibration in Grenada. Where after that, and they quelled that uprising, they just put everything on the manners. So we became more powerless. But a lot of, as I said, a lot of our revolutionaries just went into the background.
But let's look at Africa itself. Let's look at Nigeria. All right, let's just look at Nigeria. Nigeria became an independent state in 1960. We all are aware of that. We went to school and that we were taught that. But while that happened, in that period of 1960 when they became an independent state, you had a lot of revolution. You had 5 military coup d'etat inside of Nigeria between 1966 to 1999. Since then, now what has happened? You have a democratic process where people now going to the polls. So the point I'm making to you, caller, that we have seen a shift from this concept of revolution as the way of getting answers, things solved. The world has changed drastically. And you talk about the United States and talking about, in the United States, you know, if that happens, what is the end product?
I don't know how it's changed, the world has changed in that regard, you know. Look at what is happening in Gaza today. What's happening in Gaza today?
Gaza is basically for me a tribe situation.
Yeah,
a tribe situation. Because we are still seeing in South Sudan, we are still seeing tribe situation, tribal wars in those countries. So I'm saying that.
So, Mr. Joseph, those wars you speak of in Africa, or do you think that it started because of they have a problem with each other, or was they infiltrated and destabilized? Because that you have to take that into account. You know, a lot of these wars and stuff that happen in Africa is because they would destabilize the country. Mm-hmm. Okay, they were infiltrated and they destabilized this country to make them fight against each other. The same way the government used to infiltrate the Black Panthers and make them fight against each other and then kill each other. Right? It's the same kind of concept them and have. Is that divide and rule Imani was talking about?
And we saw it with the ANC too, as I said earlier on. We saw it with the ANC. So now, as I said to Imani, what we saw in Grenada, it was a betrayal, and because of that betrayal, we have since then seen people no longer want to take the risk to do the things that they want to do. I don't agree to that. But that's how I see it.
I don't think it's that at all.
That's what I see.
The people and them just got afraid and scared.
No.
They got scared.
Okay. No.
They ran away.
No.
They ran away.
No.
They physically ran away from the struggle, my brother.
They felt that cord.
You cannot allow what happened in one country to affect your standings in another country, my brother. That doesn't make sense.
No, because we saw many other people after that. Their ism changed. Their ism changed. We saw people move from socialism to capitalism to middle capitalism. Middle down the road to capitalism. We have seen that. We saw people became not scared.
So he's scared.
No.
He's scared. Ran away.
No.
They ran away from the truth. They turned their backs on it because of what happened in Grenada. So they did not want what happened in Grenada to happen to them as well. So we were scared. And when Miss Charles of blessed memory was in power, all that scary tactics was prevalent. So our people just lost it. They lost touch from the direction that we were moving. And like I tell you, it was communism, capitalism, and we want to be on one boat or the other boat, not realizing that we should have been non-aligned and towing our own boats for our own victory and our own progress. So when that part of it fell down in the Caribbean, we just left it alone and just gave up. We literally just gave up the struggle. When we came back into the struggle, what happened? Some of our revolutionaries went into Freedom Party, some went into Labour Party, some went into UWP Party and all those kind of things. You know, which I have a problem against, but I'm telling you, that is what happened. The only good thing I can say is that Rosie Douglas maintain a certain level. And it's just so sad of his passing. But I think maybe, and I hear plenty people espouse that fact that maybe if he was there, you know, things would have been, because he had his own vision. And his vision was real, and his vision had a lot of linking with Africa. I mean, they used to trouble Rosie, why you want to fight for the island when you have a whole continent? You know? So he has that in touch with that, and he never left that aspect of things, that struggle. He never left it, never left him. So even when he became prime minister, to me, he is still the same person. He was not a changed individual.
And I would really like I would really like to hear more about like I know it's a what if, but I would really like to hear the reasoning of what would people think, like if Rosie was still here today, what would things have been like? Or even if he lived maybe 10 years more.
No, but
you know what I mean? What would have been like?
But hear that in the other side of the fence. Ayman is talking about what the fear that the Freedom Party would have brought in. But it took Rosie Douglas to work with the Freedom Party to get into power. Rosie Douglas had to work with the Freedom Party, the same party that created the capitalism boogie into Dominic and create, according to Ayman, the fear into the minds of the people. And he was able to, and at the same time, the Freedom Party was not a lover of Rosie Douglas in the early days.
But Rosie had the power.
No, but he eventually worked with the Freedom Party.
Yes, but you remember he was still the majority party.
Yes, he was the majority party. So he could have taken a choice to the other party also.
Well,
but he chose not to
because of how the situation was.
Right,
I don't think that was real.
Right, so he chose not to, and I'm saying that I always tell people I do not want to go into that kind of discussion because we do not know what the ease would have been.
Yeah, we don't know.
We really do not know what the ease would have been. We cannot say that.
Yeah, I agree.
I never like to go into this.
I agree. We cannot say that.
That if he was there, what would have happened?
You know, but I just know that he
been. I mean, we. Not necessarily what is, but in terms of like what were some of his ideologies, some of his thinking, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a what if in terms of, well, if he was still alive, but more of like what are some of the principles that he had or ideologies that he had that he probably was planning on putting into place that either happened or didn't happen. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like, okay, well, what if, you know?
Housing, health, agriculture. So some of these same policies that you're now seeing unrolling, Rosie Douglas spoke quite a lot about it in his campaign in the 1999 period. So if you go back and look at Rosie Douglas' manifesto, of what he brought forward and what is now happening, unrolling now, is basically the same concept that has been unrolling. You know? So at the end of the day, I do not want us to think as to what is and what would have been. I mean, that's not fair to any individual, you know? Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, caller.
Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you very much, Imani. Give thanks, respect. I appreciate you, my brother. Okay. One love.
Yes,
Cecil, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
You know, so as I was saying to you, Imani, that in Nigeria, you know, five military coup d'etat happened between the period of they getting independent in 1966 to 1999.
Yeah.
And today's world, you're not hearing about coup d'etats in Nigeria like we used to hear before in our growing up, you know. But you'll still find civil unrest.
Yes, because I think our basic challenge now is systems of governance. I just don't think because when you think of democracy or republic or whatever name you want to call communist, capitalist, to me that is not the important thing, you know. It's not words that making people happier. It's not words, it's actions. So we talk about democracy like democracy is a God-given thing. But all we I see democracy existed in the world today. And all we I hear elections going on in the world today, I can't understand the confusion which is in the aftermath of these things. There's actually a lot of confusion in democratic countries, especially as it relates to elections. And I think this is something that we have to look at and determine as to how do we move? What is the best option? You know? Because if it is not working, it is not working. I mean, look at America today, which we say is the bastion of democracy. And then more confusion now than any other place. So what is this thing about this election thing that causing that thing? We have to look at the system of governance. I'm a person, quite frankly, I'll say it honestly, I've never entertained or believed in this multi-party business. Because I don't think it has done nothing good for our people. I think that's kept us more divided, more than ever before. And we have to put our minds somewhere as to what is the common. You see, Cecil, again, we talk about slavery. Once we got freed, we did not lay no ground, no foundation, no path. We did not say, okay, let us put away that slavery thing and all the effects of slavery and all what slavery caused to us, and let us develop something new, something of our own. We just went ahead and followed what was there. And quite frankly and honestly, I haven't seen that done anything good for us, rather than bring us into more enmity, more hatred, and more division. If that is the result of democracy, there's no way I'm going to entertain that as the be-all and end of doing things. I think we had a way working before as African people and culture. When we talk about communalism, not communism, communalism. So how we relate as a community, as a commune. I think we have to go back to a lot of those kind of ideals for us to progress and prosper. The system of governance of electing a party and then having, from time we elect the party's problems after, from the day after, we in the same kind of hatred and animosity and envy and so much talala. I don't see that bringing anything good to Dominica, quite frankly and honestly. I don't see it doing anything good for us. Why we can have a system, put system in place whereby, as I know in African society especially, there's something called elders council. Can give it any other word that you want, but some kind of overseeing kind of people that can be respected. I don't even know if we need to go down that route of having that kind of election business. Quite frankly, rather than we work in communities and work together as a people. I don't want to say one party state, people think that is dictatorship. But I don't mean dictatorship if I say one party state. I just mean it's one people working together in unison. That is all we need. I don't know why one person would want to have power over another one or fighting for power business. What is it doing for us? I haven't seen the benefits of it. So therefore, even in how we use our wording, and Africans, we have to check those things, you know, because psychology is something that's real. If you call me an opposition, all I'll do is oppose. Look at America. America doesn't say opposition. America has some good things, you know, that we can deal with too, you know, and look at, you know. America is a minority government. Although it has doing the same thing. But don't call it the opposition. Opposition is a bad word. Opposition is not coming together. So let us look at all these systems that we have and what can we put in place to make things work for us as a people. Let's do something new. It doesn't have to be what they give to us or what they have. Why can't we chart our own course and fulfill our destiny how we see it should be? So in that whole line of the black history, of the history and everything, I'm going to bring our minds now to the month of May. And the month of May is a month that is very instrumental in the progress of black people, because that's the month that had the African Liberation Day. Right now, it is called Africa Day. It has been changed to Africa Day. Which I mean, I have problem with and don't have problem with. Because I don't see why, if a day is honored as African Liberation Day in history, that it should be changed to any other thing. But be that as it may, the powers that be in Africa called Africa Day, no problem. There are days relating to plenty other places. and plenty other associations. So Africa Day can be important, and we should look at that time seriously. This year, we want to bring the focus to closer to what was the roots, because I think that it has been drifting, almost becoming a musical event. When it is more than that, it has more inspiration to gather from it. So this year we want to elevate the focus of the Africa Day, Africa Liberation Day. Actually, we're going to be collaborating the House of Naibingi, the Reparations Committee, and importantly the University of the West Indies Global Campus, going to be collaborating to bring forward that event, that day. And the African village will be at the University of the West Indies compound, the grounds. That is where the African village will be for that day. So we are announcing it even all now today, because all that is an attempt to bring again the consciousness of Africa to our people.
You think that during the period that Nelson Mandela was in jail, they took the opportunity to call it African Liberation Day? It was also called African Freedom Day. It was also called African Freedom Day.
Yes, in Freedom Day, that was in the late 50s, I think. But in 1963, it was when it was called African Liberation Day, the State African Liberation Day. And that was on the guidance again of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, because Ethiopia has a very unique place in African history. Because Ethiopia is the only place in Africa that was never colonized. So it has a very unique place. So the headquarters and the whole inspiration of African vibration came from His Majesty. People don't want to recognize that, because when we start to talk about Selassie, everybody wanted this and that and this and that. But he was the originator of it. May 25th, known as African Liberation Day. And Ethiopia became the headquarters. And even today is still the headquarters of the African Union, because of its place. You see? So we have to recognize that as well. You know, the place of Ethiopia in the scheme of things.
And this year, the African Liberation Day, or the Africa Day, has a theme. It's called Educate an African Fit for the 21st Century.
Where are you reading that from?
Building resilient education system for increasing access to Building resilient education systems for increasing access to inclusive, lifelong, quality and relevant learning in Africa.
Oh, well, that's a long theme.
Yes.
Where that theme comes from?
I got it. I went on Google to get it.
That is a universal theme?
A universal theme.
Okay. Can you read it again?
It says the theme, Educate an African Fit for the 21st Century. Building resilient education systems for increasing access to inclusive, lifelong, quality and relevant learning in Africa.
Okay, so that's a lot to do with education. Actually, you're going to use the theme this year here, Rally Round Reparation, the 3 R's. Because I think that is an opportunity for the nation, for the black race, for African people to come together, to mobilize ourselves and to bring about that eventuality, because I think it's a just and moral cause, because what we went through in slavery, I mean, what's going on in Gaza to me can't even be compared to what went on in slavery. You see? So what went on in slavery was so crucial and so wicked and so brutal that it is moral and just for us to seek and search for reparations.
What is up with the African Union?
The African Union is there. Up to this week, I think they had a meeting in Ethiopia. and the whole emphasis was on trying to deal with what's happening in Africa today, all the conflicts and tribalism. So I found they were taking a good step forward, because there's a lot of concern about what's happening in Africa now. And if we have to, and that is again one of the what's relating to reparations, because we have to be cautious as well that if, for example, a nation decides they're going to give 500 million or 1 billion, just using our example, I fear that 1 billion could bring more tragedy to us, because we have not yet repaired the damages that has been caused by the effects of slavery. So all the greed and the wants and the selfishness and the grudging and envy and all these things that are affecting us, we have to try to put those things aside and cast that aside so that we can now deal with what is in front of us in a real way. Because we cannot get reparations only to be in more confusion. That's going to defeat the whole purpose of it. So let us agree to cleanse ourselves as well, take a new approach as well, be a little different in our vibes as well, so that we can make better use of whatever yields or whatever benefits there are or there will be from reparation, so that we can avoid all the infighting that is not necessary. So we can avoid we being looked upon as being fools, being dummies, see, look at them fighting among themselves now. They get 100 million, look at them. You see? So we have to look at all those things well as well. Because when I use the examples of the land where I reside presently in Dominica, you have to have that cautiousness. Because I just don't think that we as a nation, we are together as a nation, and we want to build our nation together as one people. I still think we have people, especially in the public service, that are too laid back and that are too bent on not facilitating progress and not making things work, not helping people. I still think there's too much of that going on. There's too much of that pulling on each other in Dominica. We have to stop this kind of things. That's what's preventing us from moving forward. Those things, we have to stop it so that we can go forward in more peace and harmony. Unless we now do that, I'm telling you, we're going to have struggle. Like I said earlier on, don't care who comes in, what government is there, because of the mentality of our people, we're going to be faced with the same issues. And then we're going to have the same tribalism all over again. That is why I just cannot deal with that multi-party system. I just think it is hurting us. And that, as I say, no partiality, no enmity. It's not a matter of hating no one. It's just speaking my honest heart. I tell people I have no problems with Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. I have no problems with Lennox Linton. Lennox Linton and I went to school together in the same class in grammar school. We sit down in the same class. I can't make him an enemy today. Doesn't make sense to me. Why should I make Mr. Skerrit an enemy? For what? What am I going to gain from that? Or what are we to gain from those things? We need to put our house in order.
So as a person, in reference to black consciousness, what kind of system do you think best?
I think the system has to be an all-inclusive system, all-encompassing, all-inclusive, communal in nature. So as to how it will be, how it is going to be, for me, I always know that Africans deal with eldership eldership. And we can have a system.
From the community.
Huh?
From the community.
Yes. That will be kind of oversee-like, which will be respected people. So even though we have a system, I don't know if I so love the system of the election business that way. Quite frankly. Maybe I could more understand the system of, like how America have it, electing one person. And then we spread across
America,
the board.
No, America is not electing one person, you know. America has what is called the college.
Yeah, but eventually they're electing one president.
And they are actually electing congressmen. And from there, you have other tiers that eventually goes towards the party part of it in terms of who will win the election. But the American system, for me, is not one of the best political systems.
No, what I'm saying, in the election of the president, which is one person, right? In here we elect 21 people.
Mm-hmm. No, in the United States you elect 445 people.
Yeah,
you elect 445 people.
The Senate and the Congress
from the Congress,
everything.
And
yeah.
then from the Congress you have the Senate.
Yes, but at the same time you elect that one person to be the president. And then the president now appoints the secretary of that, this and that. Which still have to be confirmed
by him.
Not by him alone,
by the
but by the Senate and Congress and these people.
Yeah. So not by the party, sorry, by the Congress.
Yeah.
So if he has the majority in Congress, he's fine. If he doesn't, then you have a talk of war.
Well, that shouldn't be the situation. That's what I'm saying. That party business is just hurting.
So right now, the Democratic Party does not have the full Congress. Doesn't have the majority of Congress.
That's why I don't like this multi-party business. It's confusing. I prefer to see we all working together in one. One. If at the end of the day, or the end of a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever the case is, and the people decide, well, we have had enough of you, or you are not doing how we thought you would do, the people and them can come in a referendum kind of style and do what we have to do. But I just don't like the vibes that we waste so much time on politicking, we waste so much money on politicking, monies that could be used for advancement. I have a problem with those things. I think we should be more focused on our advancement as a people and not on this politicking. And try to establish our as a people, as a nation. You know, there's a time I went into a supermarket, a small supermarket, and I called the people that were working in the supermarket by the name of the supermarket. And you know, people were aggrieved. Oh, don't call me by your name. I'm not that. There you're making your daily bread, you know. And you can't even see yourself in that in cohesion, in togetherness with the establishment. That I calling you by the name of the establishment and you find that is a problem. That is the levels to how we are. That is the levels to how we take things. So we don't work communally. Which of the cooperatives that sprang up in the 1970s still exist today? Could hardly find one.
Repeat that for me.
Which one of the cooperatives that existed in the 1970s still exists today?
I hope you're not talking about the credit unions either.
No, I'm talking about credit unions.
Okay, right.
Because there are a lot of other cooperatives that came up at that time. Cooperative style, kind of cooperative style, Patrick John time.
Yeah, there was the fisheries, there was farm to market, there were a few of them.
Yes, Yard Cooperative in Riviera Civic, down Newfoundland, Yard Cassibus Cooperative, there are a lot of different cooperatives. Where are they today? We cannot work together. That is our basic problem. We are all the bands, or musical bands. You know, there are hardly entities in Dominica which have lasted the course of time. We can maybe name them on one hand or two hands. We can name a Swinging Stars, a DBS Radio, Somerset Sports Club. You know, things that, today I'll take up, if I see a Barbados newspaper, I bet I'm going to see names of the cricket teams that I knew from since in the 60s. Still existed, I still hear the names today. Do we hear of Communal? Do we hear of Spartans? You know, those kind of things I'm talking about in Dominica that just doesn't seem to last. Always seem to be not there again. Come and go. There is a problem we have in Dominica of being able to stay together and work together.
But you still have the Harlems, you still have the Kens Bros.
You have a few, I say you can name them on maybe one or two hands. There's a few. A lot of them have disappeared.
So you don't have the Saints Sports Club anymore. You don't have the Celtic Sports Club anymore.
Many of Blackburns, all those things, where are they?
But Blackburns disappeared since in the 70s.
Well, I'm saying, where are they? So it seems things just don't seem to linger on and to last, endure in Dominica. And it's basically because we can't work together. Where's Blows Agro Products? I put in myself in it too. Because I worked with Blows. Where's Bello? Where are all things that, what is the problem? The problem is working together. And unless we don't develop that communal spirit of working together, we're in problems. Goodness spirit, we just leave them things. Our culture, we just leave them things. We used to have bush tea.
Still have bush tea?
We still have it, but not recognized. It is still not recognized. Because why? Our elders had all the knowledge of the herbal teas.
They did not pass it down.
They didn't pass it down. We did not want it.
No, they didn't pass it down.
They didn't pass it down.
Take, for instance, Creole. Did they pass Creole down? No, they didn't. They flog you for trying to speak Creole. To drink bush tea.
I think that is those are wrong rules, those are wrong rules,
the bush tea, they would try to get you to drink a Milo and an Ovaltine over that of the bush tea.
No.
Because, yes.
I dispute in that.
You can dispute it if you want.
The elders and them were always involved in bush. And the elders and them could always tell you of certain medications to take for certain things.
Yes, I don't say
the point is that I want to make is that we never, as a people, developed the culture and brought it to further heights. Because we're in modern times. So our educated people now could tell us that basilic, because of that ingredient in it, it can cause that, it can do that, it can cure that. Our elders couldn't say that, but they knew it would cure it. But we didn't take it further. Because it's like it's no meaning to us. We're going down the other route. Or what is important to us, what is sent down to us. So it's only pharmaceuticals sent down to us, so we deal with only pharmaceuticals. And we don't have no time to blend the two cultures. There are very simple remedies that people can use for ailments. Very simple remedies that are so inexpensive that I see people spending thousands of dollars on medications day after day, month after month, year after year, Spending money. All their reserves go into medications. There are very simple remedies that we could use. Or eating habits. That is our culture. That is part of our culture. Or eating habits. A healthy nation, an unhealthy nation can be a wealthy nation. At no time at all. Who is going to work when you're unhealthy? Someone wants
to say hi to you. Let's listen to that person. Good evening to you, caller.
Lord, because I cannot surround in there now.
Good evening, good evening, caller.
I have to burn the fire because the point.
Good evening, caller. Burn the fire. Burn the fire.
Based on what you saying there, Mr. Emily, right? Just say that again, really and truly now. It's not the culture that disappear, it's the people them that are not involved in the culture, as you just say. You know what I'm saying? Because think of it for yourself. Let's see that right there now. Right now in our country. Watch agriculture, right? Watch your agriculture rich. Watch your agriculture rich in our country right now. All man complain about the land or the road. But what the other set of people that come out from overseas and come into that same country that have a land and road problem and doing so well. You know what I'm saying? The problem in Harvard, you say, is jealousy and grudge. That is one of our biggest problem. You know what I'm telling you? Jealousy and grudge is one of our biggest problem in that country. We have a great country. But the problem, even the same political thing too, As I tell you see me? I'm not a politician, but I'm a politician one or the other because as I realize, a lot of politicians speaking, but they doesn't do, as you say, action. And that's why I respect the Prime Minister they have right now. I call him world boss. He's not not perfect, but because of certain things he's doing. Because I telling you, when we used to go to school once upon a time, at 16 years, we had no space in school. So when certain people do certain things in the sense of agriculture and health and education, as they say, although we know the whole system already, but when you force things into the people, they cannot analyze and think for themselves. Because look at it. A lot of these guys that qualify, they say they have education and qualify. Watch them, man. Watch them well. Watch them well. Real and truly. Watch them well. Right? Watch them well. Watch them well. Tell me what positive thing they're doing in the country or they bring in. Or they're trying to elevate nobody in the country. Everybody for themselves. Get their little money as you just said. You're right. You're right on that. Get their little money, sit down on the money, and depending on the politician. But a politician can help us. Since when in our life we know that politicians have to do so much for us. We know we put politics. Huh?
We have to do it. We have to.
Thank you. We know we put politicians there, and they have to put things in place, and then we work with what they give us. And we the people that say we born and raised in the country that have our little fun, we have to help ourselves too. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Although they sit down with all the money, they do nothing positive, and waiting for the politician them to do the thing. And when certain people come out from overseas with the little money and come and do things, me tell you, man want to do construction work 9 o'clock in the morning, man. Huh? Let's get it real. You live in your house 9 o'clock in the morning, want to do construction work. Whenever we go in, think of it for yourself, brother. You see what I'm telling you? So the problem is not the country, not the politician. Mr. Haimani, well said, big brother, you're so right and correct. And that we is our own self problem because of our jealousy and grudge and ignorance. And we don't have no respect for each other. We say respect everybody, but just come with the vein. No matter who you be, what you are. Put yourself straight because love and respect, I tell you, Rastafari is the only set of people right now when I watch it in the world that have a spiritual value, love and respect for humanity. Many shall be called, so shall be chosen. Good evening to my great brother. I hope you're up and running. Up and running again. Fireman running best of the thanks I'm listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller, for your contribution. Very, very insightful discussion that we're having, Imani, on the whole issue of African month. It's coming to an end. Do you feel satisfied as a nation that we are giving enough recognition to this month, the month of February? I know it's always a month that deals with the issues of carnival and so on.
Well, this year was unique for the carnival. I mean, sometimes the carnival would come in March or things, so But this year was very unique for it. But I don't think we really in Dominica, and maybe I'm not sure for the Caribbean, that we are very attuned to it, like America, like the blacks in America. I think because it originated there, they're more, into it, and they're working with it. I don't think we are so, we're associated with it so much. You see? And maybe we can, but again, let's look at, we may be more inclined to deal with the May, because May was always the African Liberation Day and African Liberation Time. So we are very inclined working with that event more than Black History Month, But I think we could even make May a kind of a month like that, because May is an important month for our people as well. Apart from the African Liberation Day, we have a very crucial thing that happened in May that people, I know it's going
1955. That's what you're talking about?
No. May
29th? 1979?
No, May 5th, 1941.
What was that?
No. As I say, we so don't know what is our history. As I said earlier on, Ethiopia was the only nation in Africa not to be colonized. Now in 1930, somebody called Haile Selassie became the King of Kings of Ethiopia. Now even that was made to look like nothing. But then it brought to us. Because when Bob Marley said in an interview at our own time that when they ask him what it means to be Rasta, and he said he just tell the people to be still and know that His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie is the Almighty. Now he said the Bible says so, Babylon newspaper says so, and I and the children say so. So what more reveal he's asking? People want more God to reveal to them. What they want? They want a white God? Well, him come black. Those 3 words there, him come black. You don't know what inspiration that brought forward. Because when His Majesty became king in Ethiopia in 1930, one called Leonard Hall in Jamaica brought that to the top. Down with King George V, up with Haile Selassie. Right away now, you know what that did to us? That made us see that we have self-esteem, that we are kings, that we are not just slaves, but we are people of honor and people of dignity and people of high ranking. That's what it did to us. When in 1945, the Romans, called the Italians, sought to invade Ethiopia because they wanted to conquer Ethiopia, kill how many of the races and how many of the generals and how many of the people of Ethiopia, caused His Majesty to move into exile in England. In 1941, 5th of May, exactly 5 years, because it was on May 5th, 1946 he left, exactly 5 years after he returned in triumph and conquered Italy. So that day is also regarded as Ethiopian Liberation Day, because what was going to happen is that they wanted to take the last part of Africa, which was never taken. And who wanted to do it? The Romans under Mussolini. And what happened? That sparked the Second World War. So many people wouldn't know those things. Because His Majesty won them, and His Majesty is the only leader in the world who spoke to both the League of Nations and the United Nations. The League of Nations, it was first called in the 1930s. And when Mussolini invaded and he addressed them, and they actually scorned him. And he told them, what is happening to us will happen to you. And the World War sprang and it put them on the manners. And in 1963, he came back and he told them, the United Nations that now, of his words in 1946. Just check it, 3 and 6, 1946, 6 and 3, 1963. And he repeated the words that he used. So that month is a very important month too as well for that, because the last place that wasn't colonized, the Europeans tried to take it and they failed. And that caused His Majesty to be, and caused him to wake up Africa and form the Organization of African Unity and put May 25th as African Liberation Day and everything like that. So we're looking at that month as a very crucial month to incorporate the African Day, May 25th as well. And we want our people to start to be aware of it, because we, as I say, we want to elevate the focus now and make it much more educational vibration. Try to involve the youth councils, the cultural divisions, because importantly is the generation to come that is going to be the standard bearer. Is they going to face whatever we leave for them? They're going to face it. My mother used to tell me she go in, so it's all you know. When we go, it's there. And we have to be careful what we leave in for them. And they better start to ask us questions, you know. They better start to advocate things, you know, because they're going to inherit it. Whatever bad we do, whatever good we do, they're going to inherit it. And I never forgot some young people on the TV saying, in Europe or somewhere, say they don't want to rest in peace. Because everybody's saying when you die, rest in peace. They say they don't want to rest in peace. They want to live in peace. Because when you're resting, you're already in peace. But they want to live the life and live in peace. So that is what we want to live for the generations to come. We have to do our part to leave something good and bountiful for them to harvest, rather than having they to scratch from the beginning. So we are appealing to the youths to start to ask questions too, start to know what's going on in the world, what's going on with them, how their future is going to be, what direction they're moving in too. They have to start to question themselves and question us as the generations before. So we want them to be highly involved and educate themselves and hope that the college and, you know, get involved. Let's start to know what's happening in the world, what's happening to us as a people, where are we going? Are we just to be impacted by events of the world and don't know how to turn and where to turn? That is how we want to be? Or are we the ones to engineer things and make the foundation work for us? So we're going to be calling on the African spirit and the African consciousness to reawaken. Like it was awakened in the 1970s. To reawaken that spirit of consciousness. And let nothing stop us. Because we know there are powers that be. We know there are people who will always fight against what we're doing. There are powers in the world that exist. We are well aware of that. But there's always a great power. And anyhow the people and them can be together, then that is the greatest power. And my only hope is that Africa can reclaim its land, its resources, its people. Because we cannot be the richest continent and be the poorest people. We have to change that dynamics and change it now for our own benefit and survival.
And so, Imani, we had a very good discussion, and I'm sure that we would have allowed people to also build in their own thoughts what they think about us as a black people. I can hear some people saying, yes, I agree, I disagree on that point, and where we as a people really want to see our black people, how we can move forward. We have contributed quite a lot to the world. We have invented things. We need to speak more of those inventions. We have created things, and we need to speak much more about the things that we have created. We have placed peace in the world, but we are not talking about it. I don't think the Caucasian has a right to talk about what we have done. We have a right to talk about what we have done. We tend to think that we are in the minority for too many years, and by virtue of that, it is challenging us, it's belittling us. We have not found ourselves with enough confidence to tell ourselves that we are leaders in these areas and in that areas. We speak about sports, whenever we speak, we say we are the fastest, 100 meters and 200 meters. The Africans are the best in long distance, and so on. So we see in basketball, we are the better players in basketball. In cricket, we say that we have pure talent or raw talents.
In football, all over Europe is Africans
playing. You know, so with sports, we speak that volume. But in other areas, in the academics, we are superb. But how many times that we are speaking about how great we are in maths, how great we are in geography, how great we are as biologists in the area of science. How much are we speaking of those things? We have to know for that consciousness to start to develop. Let us not, because we normally say, if I have a white collar uniform, let us now use the word black collar uniform. True. Because we say, that's what we say, and we take to mean white collar to mean jacket and tie.
Yes.
Why can't we not now say the black collar uniform, which would identify us as Africa?
Yes.
And I think we are our own enemies. We have seen it for a very long time. We have not created enough space for ourselves. You're talking about Chandong and Bring Dong. You know, Bob Marley himself said that, you know, your best friend is your worst enemy. You know, and he knew what he was talking about. Because his own people came to ambush him and assassinate him. We have seen our own black brothers assassinated each other for a reason of jealousy, or you might get further than they would have gotten. You know, so I think let us now look at black as the scheme thing. Let's look at black as the thing that we must go to. Let us stop saying that black is beautiful. We all know that black is beautiful. Let us stop talking about our blackness as who we are. We know who we are already. Let us now start to speak the language of what we are doing, what we have done. I mean, we talk about our children going to the United States in universities and meet Caucasian people, and we are doing better than they are doing. We say it for one day and the next day we stop. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. May her soul rest in peace. Clarissa Etienne was the head of a white institution, you know, for a number of years. Why should we not be speaking about it? Maurice Bishop, when he was alive, was...
And why should we not create our own?
Or why should we not create our own?
Our own PAOs and WHOs.
Right, why can't we not do that? Yeah, we can. Why can't we not build our own financial centers or trade centers of the world?
We can do it.
Because we have the monies and we have the powers, we have the intelligence.
Yes, definitely.
So, I mean, why can't we not do it? We have found ourselves in this basin, in the Caribbean basin, where we are so powerful, and we have broken up what could have been a powerful institution, that is the Caribbean people, through the Federation. But within a short space of time, again, of the ism and the selfishness and wanting to just be us, we have broken it up in less than no time.
Slavery legacies.
We were the best in cricket for 15 years, approaching 20 years. But, you know, we became insular because we found ourselves choosing people that we figure out is from the bigger countries and forget the better ones.
Favoritism again.
And so by favoritism, what happened? We have
crippled
our own process. You know, we have found ourselves in the region. Yes, he is an indigenous person. May his soul rest in peace. As Chavez, who has made the Caribbean basin a rich one, you know, a bountiful one. But we have seen the need to work with the Caucasian to say, hey, he's an evil man. We have seen Michael Manley, a great patriot of Jamaica who wanted the Caribbean to be a powerful Caribbean. But we sat together with the other side and say that he was a communist and wanted to destroy Jamaica and the Caribbean people. And we can unroll all these things, you know. We have seen even when Antigua with Fairbird trying to build one Caribbean through aviation with Liat. We have since then seen now today that has destroyed. And what has happened? We have to now go to Miami to get a flight to go to Jamaica, to go to Grenada. So you try to get a flight from Dominica to go to Grenada, and you cannot get that flight, but you have to fly to Miami to get that flight to go to that Grenada. You know.
Yeah,
so these are some of the things that we have to look at. You know, how can we tell ourselves that if Dominica is the hub for agriculture, why can't we not just bring everything in Dominica and disseminate it? If we think that Antigua has a better port than any other Caribbean country in the OECS, why can't we not use Antigua as a transshipment area, you know? If we figure out that Dominica has water and water in abundance, why should we not purchase water in Dominica rather than buying water in the United States? These are some of the things that, and these are not things for politicians.
No.
These are not things for politics. These are for us. When we talk about markets, we tend to think that the politicians are the ones who are supposed to get market for our foods. Why can't we, again, as you speak earlier on of the cooperatives, why can't we not set up cooperatives to go out there to get markets so that we ourselves, I mean, when on the Forbes Burnham, you had a number of cooperatives that made Guyana viable in the 70s into the 80s.
Yeah, that is where it was taken, you know. That is where Patrick John took the
initiative of cooperatives. And so I think there are things that as a people, if we let off the power from the politicians, I think we give the politicians too much work to do. The politicians are there to place policies.
I will agree to that, you know, to some level.
They are there to place policies, make policies, and to drive the policies. We are there to harness.
I don't know if you are afraid to do it. That is the next problem. If we just don't want to talk, or if we just feel so subservient that we just don't want to do anything, or I don't know what is the fear. Because I mean, like, for example, I remember, I wouldn't name what ministry, but some monies came down from the OAS sometime to do certain projects, and you know, the money is going to go back up. How could we as technocrats allow that? That monies come down to do projects and the monies are leaving without doing the project and go back up? Come on. We say we are qualified people. We are educated people. You know what one person told me once, and a person who went to university? He told me many of us are certified, but we're not qualified. We have the paper. But the qualification is a different thing. And there are many people who don't have the paper
and have the qualifications.
Yes. And are not regarded.
Yes.
You see how we are? So we prefer sabotage a project, or don't give the man who is qualified but not certified to do the work and control the work, sabotage the project instead.
Yes.
Sometimes we get the man who is qualified and nothing
at all.
He still has to go to the man who is not qualified. So come on, man. Let us come on. It's a real world.
Yes.
It's a real world, man. We can do better than that.
I think we can.
We can do better than that. Dominica is a nice place, you know. I don't know what people talk about running greener pastures, you know. I don't know pasture at Greenland, Dominica, you know. I don't know it. To me, the only place I could leave Dominica for is Africa. Many people want to come to Dominica. Dominica is a nice virgin territory.
And not any African country.
Well, Africa is in a new stage. You know?
Yeah.
A new stage. But Dominica is a nice little place. And I don't know why we so confused about it. We have water in Dominica, you know.
In abundance.
Water running through the land, you know. And we're still suffering and struggling and just making noise with each other. I don't like it. I don't care what people say about me. I do like the political things that are going on in Dominica. It's not nice. It's just not nice. Too much of that. We're not developing because of that. We're keeping ourselves back because of that. then all of us can play a part. All of us can help to make the nation greater. But I don't know, we just like to fight for power and prestige and pomp. You know, many people would like an association just to go away, to travel.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yes. Yes.
You know? And denying who is worthy to do it. Come on. Let us start to think. We can do better than that. So all that is in the course of African history and black history. Because all those things affecting us as a people.
And I think as a black people, we have to now start, doing some introspection of ourselves.
Definitely.
And I'm sure if we begin to do that introspection, we can see difference. We can really see the difference. Because one of the things that we do very well is to, as we normally say in our Dominican palace, we can malpally very well. And if we get into the positive of the pally well,
yeah,
we will see much more results.
Yes, man. We have to agree to disagree, Dominica. Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And that's why I talk about, when you talk about system of governments and to say, people tell me, it must have opposition. I say, but come on. Even in an association of people or in a government of people, there is opposition. Isn't it?
That's so very
So
correct.
it's natural thing
yes.
to have different views. So why you tell me you have to have opposition to do what? To oppose and make problems?
Like anyway, give us your last words.
My last word is that I just want us to look towards Africa Day. I want to highlight Africa Day coming May 25th as a day to further the consciousness of our people. And we're going to concentrate a lot on education and health and spiritual, cultural things. And we want our people to get involved. We're looking at Africa Dress Day on the Friday, because 3 days, Thursday, 21st, Friday, 24th, and Saturday, 25th. You're looking at Africa Dress Day on the 24th, where you want everybody to come out and be dressed and do some healthy eating. And we're looking for all our people to get involved and at the African Village at University campus, because we think the university is now a focal point for African vibrations. We can see for Professor Beckles that he's leading the way on that. So we want the university to play that kind of focal point here as well. Because many of our intellectuals and many of our past Black Power advocates and all these people, the consciousness is raised in universities as well. So we want to establish that fact, and we're going to be on the university grounds. And it's going to be a good time. We want the youths to get involved, we want everybody to get involved, and everybody feel irate and see how we can move our nation forward. Because it is ours to build.
Thank you very much. Give thanks, Imani. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that if we need your assistance for the future on the issue of reparation, we didn't speak quite a lot of it tonight. I don't think that's where we're leading. We're talking about a whole awareness of being black. So I just want to say thank you so very much for being part of this discussion here this evening. And it was at very short notice when I was told, and I said yes, I would accept you and to tell the other person that they'll have to come for the following Sunday. Yeah. I think it was important that we recognize the Africanist in us, and the month of February is for that, for blackness, and I think it was important, and the information that you gave us tonight was very relevant. So I just want to say thank you so very much, Imani.
And thanks a lot, Cecil. And your Lakou program, high program, good program.
Thank you.
Yes. And actually you're going to maybe highlight some of your Lakou vibrations in your African Day business. Because you see a lot of these old artifacts and all the old time things, utensils and all that. I hear a lot of you talking on your program every time. You want to bring those things forward, let people see it.
Yes.
Let people
especially the generation of today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you may well have
Z generation.
You may well have a Lakou booth.
Yes. All right. I like that. Thank you. All the best.
Care.
All right then. Bye bye. Yeah. Well, we're just speaking to Imani on the whole consciousness of our blackness on African Liberation Day on the 25th of March. Sorry, 25th of May. But we were here tonight on Black History Month. So thank you so very much to the listeners.
DBS Radio has now upgraded its online internet radio. We can now accommodate unlimited online radio listeners on all our official locations. DBS Radio website at www.dbcradio.net, on radio.garden, on onlineradiobox.com, and TuneIn desktop and mobile platforms of DBS Radio with over 38,000 subscribers and growing. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms